Sure.
Good evening, everybody. At this time, I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Meeting, City of Lake City, 4th January 2023. If all will please rise and recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads. Lord, thank you for your many, many blessings. Bless our deliberations this day. Give us wisdom to make sound recommendations. We ask for all these blessings in your name, Lord. Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Mr. Angelo, will you please call roll of the board?
Ms. McCollum?
Here.
Mr. Nelson?
Here.
Mr. Cooper?
Here.
Mr. Mann? Mr. Carter?
Here.
And Mr. Lighty.
Present. In front of you, you should have the meeting minutes for Planning and Zoning, 6 December 2022. These were electronically distributed to us prior to the holiday break. I trust all members of the board have had the opportunity to look these minutes over. At this time, are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes as submitted digitally?
I have speakers, and they asked for 3x5 cards to be submitted for the speakers. Who do I give that to?
Oh, we'll let everyone that wishes to speak this evening.
Okay.
That's not an issue, don't worry. We may be here a while, but don't worry.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve minutes for 12/06/2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor of approval of the minutes? Aye. All opposed? Very good, unanimous. We have meeting minutes from last month. Seeing no old business on our agenda to attend to, let's move to new business. First item on the agenda under new business is petition SPR 23-03, submitted by Tori Humphreys, acting as agent for Daniel Craps, for a site plan review for Bell Road Storage and Maintenance Facility located in the Industrial Zoning District, located on parcel 04903-002, regulated by Land Development Regulations, Section 4.17. Mr. Angelo, would you like to give the board a brief rundown on this petition?
All right, this petition is SPR 23-03 for a Bell Road Storage Maintenance Facility. Their plan is to build a structure there to be able to warehouse and store large construction equipment and to be able to maintenance the equipment there. It does, because it's in the industrial area, it does meet the requirements of the LDR under 4.16.2.1 and 5. On the staff review notes, the only staff concern we had on the staff review notes was our sewer department director would like confirmation that no hazardous material will be dumped into the city collections per city sewer ordinance. Other than that, that's it.
Very nice, thank you, Mr. Angelo. At this time, do we have Tori Humphreys, acting as agent for Daniel Craps, to approach the podium and speak on behalf of this petition? Do we have anyone representing either Tori Humphreys' agent or Daniel Craps' owner who wishes to speak for SPR 23-03? Seeing none at this time, do we have a motion from the board to table petition SPR 23-03 until such time as an agent or proponent can come and speak on behalf of this petition?
Motion to table SPR 2303.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Mr. Cooper down there. Mr. Angelo, please call the yeas and nays for tabling.
Ms. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And Mr. Lively.
Yay. Petition SPR 23-03 is tabled for a future meeting. Second issue on the agenda, SPR 23-02, petition submitted by Carol Chadwick, acting as agent for Larry Graham, owner, for site plan review for LG Transit LLC in the Commercial Intensive Zoning District, located upon parcel 11228-000, regulated by Land Development Regulations, City of Lake City, Section 4.13. Mr. Angelo, would you care to approach the podium and brief the board on the nature of this petition?
All right, this petition is SPR 23-02 for LG Transit. It is for a proposal for a office space to operate their transit company out of. And it is located in the Commercial Intensive District and does meet the requirements of the LDR of 4.12.2.6. And per the staff review notes, the PD has a concern with the lighting and suggest a good lighting plan. And they also would suggest motion lights on the east side of the building, being that there's a wooded side on the side of the building there.
And PD was the only city department that had issues with that? Very good. At this time, do we have a Carol Chadwick acting as agent? Hello.
Hello.
You are here today.
Yes, I am.
All right, please raise your right hand. You swear that the testimony you're about to give to the best of your knowledge is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Very nice. Your name and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo, please.
Carol Chadwick, 1208 Southwest Fairfax Glen, Lake City, Florida.
All right, and please give us a description of what you would like to accomplish this evening.
On this parcel, the owner wishes to construct a building that will be used for the office for his transport business. I addressed the question about lighting with the contractor this morning, and we're definitely going to make sure that we do put the motion sensitive lights and lights around the perimeter of the building.
All right, anything else for the proponent from members of the board? Straightforward. Seeing none at this time, unless you have anything else you wish to add, you may be seated. Do we have anyone else in attendance this evening that would like to speak either for or against petition SPR 23-02? If so, please make a very orderly line and approach the podium. We're not used to this many people in this room at one of these simple meetings. Any people? All right, seeing none, I'm guessing this is not the petition that you guys all showed up for. At this time, we will consider public comment on SPR 23-02 to be closed. Discussion amongst members of the board?
No.
No issues with the site plan? Heartburn's been taken care of on the city end. At this time, do we have a motion to either approve or disapprove petition SPR 23-02 as presented by the agent for the proponent?
Motion to approve SPR 2302.
Second.
Motion, and with Ms. Mary, we have a second. Mr. Angelo, will you please hold the board?
Ms. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And Mr. Lively.
Yay. Very nice, it's unanimous. Petition SPR 23-02 is approved. Third item of business, which will be on the third set of emails we got from the city, those of you trying to keep up on your pads here. Yes, that one. Petition SPR 23-01, submitted by Brian Pittman, acting as agent for David Terrell, owner, for a site plan review for Terrell Medical Office in the Residential Office Zoning District located on Columbia County Parcel 02461-512, regulated by City of Lake City Land Development Regulations, Section 4.10. Mr. Angelo, would you like to introduce this petition to the board?
All right, this one is for SPR 23-01 for Terrell Medical Office. It is for a site plan review for a residential office area. They're gonna have a medical office there. It does meet the requirements of the LDR of 4.10.2.4. And on the staff review notes, you'll notice on the Distributions and Collections Director had a comment that the contractor must relocate the lift pump for the pond to the new easement to the east. And the Distributions and Collections Department must be on site to inspect it. Also, the Swanee River Water Management will also inspect that lift station, make sure it's within compliance. And the Distributions and Collections Department must have a 48-hour notice to schedule that on-site visit.
Very nice. Do we have Brian Pittman, acting as agent for proponent, to speak on behalf of petition SPR 23-01?
Yes, sir.
Please approach. Please raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give this evening, to the best of your knowledge, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address and record for Mr. Angelo.
Brian Pittman, B-R-I-A-N, last name P-I-T-M-A-N, and address is 405 East Duval Street, Lake City, Florida, 32055, I believe. I think Mr. Angelo did a good job of kind of bringing this in. Essentially what we're doing is we are going on a vacant lot in city limits. To give you a very rough estimation of where this is, if you know where I always call it the big first federal building out on 90 West, just past the interstate. Behind it, there's an existing commercial subdivision that already has stormwater taken care of as far as treatment goes. So it's a vacant lot. He intends to put a new medical office on. I don't know if you need background on the actual medical office. They are an existing medical office in town, which is Grace Family Medical. The current space they're in, they have outgrown, and they're just looking to put in a new structure that's bigger they can grow into in time.
All right, anything else you'd like to share with the board?
No, sir.
All right, any questions for the agent of proponent from members of the board? All right, hearing none at this time, you may be seated. All right, let's see if this is the one you're all here for. At this time, is there anyone else present that would like to speak either for or against petition SPR 23-01? All right, strike two, seeing none. At this time, public comment on petition SPR 23-01 will now be considered closed. Discussion amongst members of the board. Straightforward, developing a vacant lot. At this time, do we have a motion that we can entertain for either approval or disapproval of petition SPR 23-01 as presented by the agent for proponent?
Motion to approve SPR 23-01.
Second.
Motion with a second by Carter. Mr. Angelo, please poll the board.
Ms. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Rand? And Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And Mr. Leidy?
Yay. Very nice. Petition SPR 23-01 is approved unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Pittman.
Thank you.
All right, moving along to the fourth item on our agenda. This will be again in the third email of packets that we received. All right, CPA 22-09 and Z 22-07 will be considered at the same time. These are petitions submitted by Carol Chadwick, acting as agent to the owner, to amend future land use and official zoning atlas of the land development regulations by changing land use from residential moderate to residential high density, and equally changing the zoning district from residential single family 2 to residential multifamily 2 on property described as Columbia County parcel 0804500. Mr. Angelo, would you care to introduce this petition to members of the board?
All right, this petition is CPA 22-09 and Z 2207 for Tennis Forever. They are proposing to change the zoning from a residential single-family 2 to a residential multifamily 2, and also changing the future land use from a residential moderate to a residential high. Residential high would then match with the residential multifamily, which would have a potential for 20 dwelling units per acre. And this is conducive with the LDR in section 4.9.2.3. The property is not contiguous with other parcels in the residential multifamily district, but is in close proximity. And according to the staff reviews at this time, because the zoning really doesn't have a whole lot of city concern with as far as utilities go, the county has reached out and expressed interest in the concerns of traffic on Bascom North, being that is a county maintained road. Also, some citizens have called the office and expressed some concerns over safety and traffic concerns also.
And do we have a comprehensive list of those concerned citizens?
But obviously do in the email.
That's been added to the file?
Yeah, they will be after the meeting.
All right, at this time, Ms. Chadwick, please approach. I remind you, you are still under oath, even though this is a different petition. Please explain for the benefit of the board what you're trying to accomplish this evening.
The owner of the site is looking to develop a multifamily neighborhood community. We originally applied to rezone for multifamily without changing the future land use, but because of the matrix for the land use and zoning, that we were requested that we apply for a change in that also, which the owner does not propose to put in the maximum amount of dwelling units that would be allowed with that. We came up with a conceptual site plan for 88 dwelling units. That would be fourplexes or duplexes. We've been in communication with the city regarding all of their utilities. And also with the county regarding the traffic on that road. And we anticipate doing a full traffic impact study on it and then following the recommendations set forth in that. I would like to go on and say that I understand there's been a lot of misinformation about this on social media and through email, and I'd like to address some of that ahead of time. First of all, in an email, it says the site is being sold for low-income housing and it needs to be rezoned for the sale to go through. There is no contingent sale on it. The property was previously up for sale, but it is not, and there are no plans to sell the property. Low-income housing means lower property values. Well, actually, I don't believe that it would, because these would not be comparable to single-family homes, and they would not be looking at the comp values for a multiplex versus a single-family home. Higher crime rates. Since they are only serviced by the sheriff's department there, which has a slow response time, which I can't speak for that, but since this is in the city of Lake City, I believe Lake City Police Department does patrol that and would be doing drugs or other criminal activities. Now, that said, we're not proposing low-income housing here. The owner wants to make it a nice multifamily residential subdivision, which, if anyone has, looked around Lake City, there's a dire need for housing. Let's see. And I guess that's everything I have, unless you have questions for me.
I'm guessing this is why everyone is in the room, so at this time, if the board has any specific point-related questions for Ms. Chadwick, let's get those out of the way so we can start a nice, neat, orderly line for all this public to tell us how they feel. Any questions, Mr. Cooper?
Not yet.
Okay, and we can reserve questions for as we move along. This time have a seat. All right, everyone that wishes to speak either for or against these two joined petitions, CPA 22-09 and Z 22-07, will be allowed to do so. There's a low enough number of us here.
That's a quick question, some related. Sorry, before this all gets started, somebody from North Florida texted me and said they weren't aware, they weren't paying attention about the meeting. They asked them to come up, by the time all this is done for their part, could they still present it? Or is that kind of beyond and past and made the motion to move on?
This would be for Tony Humphreys.
Tori Humphries. It won't be Tori, she's sick, but it's someone else from her office that would come. I have no dog in this fight, just trying to relay the
As
message.
long as we don't gavel out of session, we can always untable
Okay.
that petition.
Okay, thank you very much, and sorry to interrupt.
Not a problem. We're gonna be here for a while. That being said, everyone who wishes to will get the chance to speak. I do ask, you'll notice we aren't gonna be running that official clock there. We're not as official as the city council is about keeping this to an exact finite amount. I do ask that you be respectful of everyone's time, be brief, state your point, and let the person behind you move. So what I'll do is I'm gonna start on, let's see, you're in the front row. We're gonna start with the gentleman in the blue trousers, red shirt here. And after he speaks, I'll kind of move my finger across the room, go back a row, move it across the room. Anyone that wishes to come up at that time, please come and state your piece.
I'd actually like to request to go first because I'd like to offer a motion to table. And then all of this would be avoided.
Well, citizens don't usually offer motions at
Or to
meetings
present
such as
that that
this,
be a
but
possibility.
I mean, since you were the one shepherding the public comment cards earlier, I assume you represent a vast majority of these
Many.
individuals?
I wouldn't say vast majority, but
Please approach.
sorry, everyone.
Please raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Very good. Name with spelling plus legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Laura, Laura, Frida, Freda, hyphen, Shippey, SHI, 2 P's, 2 E's. My address is 244 Southwest Challenger Lane, Lake City, Florida.
All right, be as pleasant as you can, but let's hear what you have to say about these two joint petitions.
I brought up about motioning because there's a few things that have presented a situation where we have not, as a community, been able to address some of the issues. And part of that is also the misinformation that is going around. The first is the timeframe for the response by the local residents. This was posted at on or after 1 o'clock on the 22nd of December. That left Friday, the day before the holiday weekend. It, which leaves little time to do anything with. Then it was the middle week between Christmas and New Year's, where there were a lot of people that were trying to be contacted that were on vacation or just not available. And then there was yesterday and Monday and today. So there were a great many of the local residents that were unable to be contacted after the posting had been put out in order to have a response from them. The second thing is that the land parcel public hearing notice. I've looked up and tried to find out what the criteria is for that public notice. And there isn't really one to speak of. It says merely that it needs to be posted along the roadway. And I'd like to, and I have paperwork, to bring up that statewide, many of the communities within the city, within the state, have certain criteria for that to happen. One of them is the size, location, and so forth of the public notice. For instance, 3 feet high, 6 feet wide landscape, a minimum of 3-inch font sizes. The sign shall be posted in a conspicuous place near the front of the property, readily viewable by the passing public from 1 or more streets. The signs that were posted did not even measure 30 by 20. The notice itself was a printed copy 8 by 10. It was run parallel to Bascom Norris, which is in at least, I think it's a 40 or 45 mile an hour zone. So if someone actually saw that there were signs there, they would have had to pull over in a highly busy traffic road where there's no curb or any place to actually pull over to get out of their car and read the signage. The property also is perpendicular to Tomoko. I think it's Lane or Terrace. There was no sign put at that location. So the signage for the posting of this public notice on that property was vastly insufficient. So between the time constraints that were presented because of the holiday season, as well as the land parcel public hearing notice signage, those are the 2 primary reasons. There's also, there would be a justification request for certain, for the zoning change from the RSF residential single family 2, which is a moderate, which allows for 4 units per acre, skipping the RMF 1, which is the residential multiple family residence, which is 8 residences per acre, and skipping that completely and going to a high density residential multifamily of 20 units per acre. Based on the proposal that Carol has mentioned, they are looking to do 88 2-bedroom locations, residences, units. As a moderate RSF2, those could be established as townhouses. They could be established as rental homes. If they didn't want to do that and they wanted to put multiple units in one building, there should be no reason why they cannot go to the RMF1, which would allow for 8, which would give a total of 176 units available for that land acreage. So we would like to have a request for justification for the jump from the RSF2 to the high density RMF2. So without that justification and paperwork, we don't feel that we can continue to make any further opinions within our community in regard to this property.
Can I address that right now, please? I think that you're talking about the future land use, which we were happy leaving with residential moderate. But it was requested that we change it to residential high to match with RMF2 zoning, because that is something that is completely different. So we did not originally submit that. Mr. Angelos requested it because of the North Florida Council.
Yes, which is why this is a joined CPA plus a.
And that's the only reason that we were requested to change so that they match.
Right, and it went, and that does not discount what I've said. What I said was that it went from single family moderate, residential 1, moderate, which is the 4 units per acre. The next level, which would involve a multi-unit, which would also involve the business license and be able to accumulate rent as is seen fit for a multi-unit and a landlord who wants to do that. That next level was skipped completely for whatever reason, and that's what we're looking for. What is the reason to completely skip that medium density, 8 units per acre, equaling 176 units, which means that at some point in time, in the future, that could be redeveloped into 176 units, okay? What is the justification for the jump that would then allow at some time in the future to jump to 441 units? What's the justification for that? Never mind all the other issues that we all have problems with. So what I'm saying does not discount what she's brought up, but what she has brought up doesn't discount what I've been brought up.
All right. Any questions from members of the board for the public commenter?
Has there been a justification issued to the city for why they made that jump?
It's really not something we would ask for. I mean, a private property owner has the right to file an application for whatever CPA or Z-class petition they wish to file.
Yeah, I would think normally we wouldn't ask for it, but maybe.
It's not required in the LDRs to the best of my knowledge. Now, one question I do have for Mr. Angelo, do you have the specs on what is required in the LDRs for public notice as far as signage
As far as
goes?
signage, there is no set requirements. It just says that it has to be posted for 10 days prior.
And this was in excess of 10 days?
Correct.
Okay, so the city and the Department of Growth Management met all of its own internal legal requirements for signage and notification for the parcel in question.
Correct.
Very nice.
May I commit to that? For a lack of definition, I would think that the state requirements would be expected. And these were based on state recommendations.
We have City of Lake City land development regulations we follow. We don't follow this.
Right, but it's not addressed. So with it not being addressed or defined,
Well, that would
I
be a
mean,
matter,
I could go out
that
there
would be a
and.
matter for a lawyer to determine.
Put
That's
something
not
like
something
that
we're
on
deciding this evening.
Well, okay, but let's consider logically, I mean, I could think of a few other words, just, common sense. Why, if I could go out there and put a thing like this and say, well, it adheres to the standards. Well, no, there's state standards. And if there's no standards set by the city, there should be state standards that are met.
Right.
Do you mind if she goes over the dates again, when they posted it and when the holiday started? And
You said
how
it
many
was posted at
actual,
1 o'clock on the 22nd.
I was
right?
told 1 o'clock from someone in the zoning department that it was 1 o'clock on Thursday, the 22nd, which left the remaining portion of that day,
That's in excess of 10 days.
Friday, the 23rd. I understand it is in excess of 10 days, but I'm asking for consideration of the fact that because of the time and season, that there was just no way that those 9 days, because it's only in fact 9 days that we've had business days, that anything could have been done, or at least not certainly enough for us to be able to determine as a community that is affected by this proposal to have any kind of misinformation to base our opinion on.
Okay. At this time, just in the interest of allowing everyone a chance to speak, I'll give you a chance to speak again as we wrap this up, but we do really need to start getting some folks around this podium.
Okay.
So that I don't have to start enforcing that clock on the wall.
Okay, that's fine. I do also have several people that have committed their time, have passed it over to me.
Okay.
So for the next stage.
So at this time, I'm going to start just pointing and moving around the crowd. If you would like the opportunity to come up and speak either for or against these joined petitions, CPA 22-09 and Z 22-07, please do. Sir, second row. Madam on the aisle. Moving across the aisle. Wait, second row. We're not to third row yet. Pink and white striped shirt. Please raise your right hand. You swear testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge and ability.
I do.
Very nice. Name and spelling with address.
Barbara Lemley, B-A-R-B-A-R-A, Lemley, L-E-M-L-E-Y, 393 Northwest Fairway Drive, Lake City. My concern is I travel that road. I know why the pine trees were taken down some time back. I realize there's a need for housing. My concern is the location to the parks that are used here in the county, and tourist development has spent lots of money. And even though there are gonna be 2 bedrooms, what is the potential that these could be 3-bedroom units with children that could go out and destroy the fields? Kids do things even though they're not supposed to. The possible potential destruction, and if something were to happen, who would be responsible? It would be the apartment complex. And I would suggest if this does go through, that there's some type of fencing so there's not easy access from the apartments to the property. And it'll increase traffic, and that road really could not handle probably any more traffic than what it does. I just think that, there need to be at least 4 lanes to go into the complex and out. And there's enough accidents here with people who don't know how to drive. I just see it as a potential hazard to have units. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lemley. Coming across, blue hat. Come on down. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, to the best of your knowledge and ability.
I do.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Robert over there.
My name is Frank Armijo, F-R-A-N-K, A-R-M-I-J-O. I live at 2384 Southwest Bascom Norris Drive, the bypass road. I'm gonna try and be as quick as I can. I was handed these, I've never had them before, I thought it was part of your procedure, but.
No.
I'm here to speak on behalf of myself, I'm not a spokesperson for anyone in the room. I feel this is very prematurely. Usually, you don't put the cart ahead of the horse, you find out is the structure in place, is the infrastructure in place, the water, the sewer, the road traffic study. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and let you know some of my concerns, as well as the county had concerns also. You figured, this would have been settled before it was thrown on your lap, on the do's and don'ts and can it be done or not. That road, when I moved there 29 years ago, and I'm not right across the street from this, I'm catty corner, across from St. James Episcopal Church. I was 594 Brown Lane. It was a pig trail, dirt road, and it stopped a little ways down there. Then it changed to 594 Malone. It went down to Sister's Welcome. It T'd, you had to go left or right. Then the bypass road, I'm assuming it's a bypass road. Everything I've read was bypass, connection road all the way around to Lake Jeffrey to 41 and then 100. The bypass road came in, and that's when my address changed to what it is today. The bypass road is a road or highway that avoids that avoids or bypasses a built-up area, a town, a village, or to let the traffic flow without interference from local traffic, to reduce congestion in the built-up area and to improve road safety. It can also be called a truck route, but I live on that road. I'm retired. I'm home a lot. Semi-trucks don't use that road. It's quicker to go ahead and go through Grandview, which is tore up now from road traffic, or go to 41 and go other ways. The semi-trucks know that it's too busy. From Sister's Welcome to 47, and from 47 to the ball fields, you cannot go west because of the traffic lights. So if it's a bypass road, I just can't figure out why are we building new
businesses or homes on a bypass road. I see here Chadwick says that the zoning will not change property values. How do you know? We don't know that. Drainage problems, which that will come. Bonnie Plant Farm used to sit there years ago. Bonnie Plant Farm moved when they got flooded, when the ball fields were put in, and they relocated. That was 25 years ago. It also says on this Chadwick on page 178, there will be no drainage problems to be created. How do we know that? The city and county has not met yet to discuss stormwater, runoff, retention. You're taking a pervious ground, a ground that soaks up water. You took trees out, which is now gonna cause it to hold water because the root systems aren't there anymore. And now you're gonna put asphalt and concrete and houses with roofs. That water's gotta go somewhere because it don't soak through asphalt. Last I checked, it didn't. I'll save this one for last, it's a good one. The description here repeats Brown Lane, Brown Lane, Brown Lane, Brown Lane. It says bypass a couple times. It talks about Brown Lane a lot in here in the description. I just think that's poorly. I know that's what Chadwick was given, but it's been changed twice since then. Malone and now to Bascom. That doesn't say much for itself, calling it Brown Lane when that was 28 years ago. It's going from residential, it's going to residential high multifamily. People need a place to live, I understand that. I fully understand that. As we've seen in Columbia County and Lake City, all these apartments, the majority of them, and I can name them, but I'm not, started out as apartments. But because of the economy, COVID, and other reasons, they turned into Section 8 housing. Some were built for Section 8 housing, I agree with that. Some weren't. I know this because I used to inspect those places when I was previously employed. I'm concerned about the housing being close proximity to the youth recreation, the soccer fields to the west, with a 30-foot buffer, according to Chadwick's plans, with a 15-foot easement. Softball fields to the west, a church to the south, and Bascom Norris bypass. The church to the east and the bypass road to the south. She also states on here that the city has no issues. That's what she was provided with. At this time, she don't, but there will be some. Once they meet and get together and see, can this happen? Is it feasible? Is it capacities? The analysis on water, solid waste, I don't know how she got those so far. I don't know if she got them from the city. You figured they'd have had them by now if she did. I don't know if that's a guess or if she's got calculations they go by. I respect that, I'm not an engineer. But the sewage waste, the tonnage that I read in the report, and the wastewater and the potable water. Natural gas also. So I don't know if it's Section 8 housing at this time or not. We're not concerned right now with that, if it is or not. The good one I have here, and I know you've probably heard it before, is the gopher turtle. I've lived there for 30 years. I've moved gopher turtles out of the road because they are protected. Gopher turtles, and I know it might seem like a joke, when they done the north end of bypass road to Lake Jeffrey, they had to pay and have them moved. Those gopher turtles had to be moved off that property. Chapter 68A-27, Florida Administrative Code. Gopher tortoise must be relocated before any land clearing development takes place, and property owners must obtain permits from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation before they move them by their permitting guidelines. The land has been prepared, I say prepared, a rough preparation. I know of 2 gophers houses that were on that property. The gophers are under the ground right now, they're hibernating. Gopher turtles don't come out in the wintertime. You cannot move gophers unless it's 76 degrees or higher to relocate. And you can only relocate 2 gopher turtles per acre when you do relocate. Transporting gopher turtles when it's cold outside can also create a chill in fall as well as pneumonia. Placing a gopher turtle on other acreage to relocate can go in a burrow and cause that gopher turtle to be sick with pneumonia also. My last thing here is there is a true oak tree on the property, which is by the road. It's still standing. I'm just being fair with all the other people that have to build, can't take down that live oak tree. It's gotta stay. And these poor gopher turtles, they're protected. Thank you for my time, and that's just some of my concerns on this project. And I still feel it's ahead of time. The other stuff should have been done before it's thrown into your lap, where you'll have more information on can this be done or not. Thank you for your time.
Right, hold up, don't run nowhere yet. Do we have any questions for this public commenter from members of the board before I dismiss him? All right,
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Steve, representing Growth Management, would you like to come to the podium? All right, you're talking now, so I'm gonna need one of these. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge and abilities? Very nice. Name and spelling plus legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Steve Brown, 205 North Marion. I would like to speak on behalf of the city.
Can't hear you.
I would like to speak on behalf of the city, not for or against the project. I would just like to advise the board of some of the stuff that Mr. Armahoe brought up that kind of got us to this point. I think it's pertinent, so that you kind of get a feel for the roadmap that got us just to this preliminary section. We currently have a meeting every 2 weeks where we bring new projects that are wanting to come to town. A lot of times when these projects come before us, they are preliminary. They don't have any concrete guaranteed uses or anything. So what we basically do is we look at these projects and we say, is there availability of utilities? The answer to that is yes, there is availability. We do have resident experts in the room when they request, would we be able to use the north or south side of the road for, say, sewage, for example? If there's a manhole over there, a lot of times that answer is yes. In this case, we started hearing some issues maybe back as early as June on several projects that are looking to be built in that area. Traffic study was the very first one we brought up. We asked for a traffic study to be done. I feel it be pertinent that you know that I received an email within the last 3 to 4 days from County Manager David Kraus, informing me that the county has concerns about infrastructure. They didn't say so much about the number of vehicles, but the infrastructure. That is very important to everybody in this room. Again, I'm not speaking for or against, this is advising. Knowing that the county does have concerns about the infrastructure, that's the quality of the actual roadway, that is very pertinent to the decision that is made here tonight. In the concern about the infrastructure, we did not address the exact stormwater. Ms. Chadwick did tell us that they would be addressed by Suwannee River Water Management, so that has been preliminary discussed. Again, those meetings are they're to get the ball rolling, if you will. As far as the zoning, we follow the LDR. We do whatever's in the LDR. I'm not saying it's good or bad. If we want to increase the signage, we can do that. But I just want you to know that we followed the LDR at this point. So that's kind of some things that you might want to just keep in, as you're making your decision making process, you understand. And I'll be glad, I'll be here all night if you want me to get back up and speak to anything specific.
Steve, one thing I would like you to address, clearly whether or not an approval or a tabling and a subsequent approval occurs this evening, can you speak on the city's behalf in terms of the difference between what the CPA and the Z approval is versus what would be coming down the pike for an SPR at a later date, and the difference between those two sorts of petitions and what gets ironed out in between the CPA and the Z and the site plan review, the SPR?
So the site plan review versus what you're going to see in the future is going to be, it's going to be very, two different things, I believe. And the reason why I say that is because we have some developments that have reached out to us that they want to build somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 homes in this area. Some of the concerns that the city of Lake City has that we have addressed with the county prematurely, because this is foot traffic. If people are walking across that road to go to those ball fields, at each end of that road is a state road with a traffic signalization. How that's gonna work as far as cycling it through there, we have also requested that they reach out to DOT because of that matter. So there are a lot of unknowns as far as what the city of Lake City as an employee has done. So to address your exact concern, that's gonna change. I believe you're gonna see that change in the future, especially if the other developments come forward and ask for the same exact rezoning. We have some annexations that are on the table. And a lot of this stuff that, like I say, is just stuff that you probably are to add into your equation, even though we don't have it in your packet because it hasn't been brought to us on that level. We have just seen the interest.
And in addition to the issues to be addressed at some point in the future between our state partners, our county partners, and the city, is there anything that you've reviewed at the growth management level that would indicate that there's going to be any federal involvement with this project at all?
Not as of right now.
Okay. All right, any other questions from members of the board for Mr. Steve before we let him go and sit patiently till the end of the meeting?
All right, now. So Florida Department of Transportation, they haven't approved anything regarding traffic flow on this particular project yet.
That's the reason why I wanted to come up here tonight, Mr. Nelson, to let you know that nobody has approved anything. When the comment was made that the city has looked at this and said that this would work, that's not what was said.
Have not approved and have not even weighed in.
No, what we done is we sat through a meeting and a new development meeting, which we have with growth management and all members of the city staff as far from the director level. What they do is they come up and they propose these projects to us, and at this time, we didn't see any reason why they couldn't, but to some of the members' comments, once you get into all of the details, there could be stuff that could cause it to be derailed. And the traffic thing, I just got that email from the county. They are requesting a study based on infrastructure. And no, sir, DOT has not weighed in yet.
To be clear, there's been no studies on infrastructure or traffic flow yet.
None that the city has been, I'm not saying they haven't, but we haven't been presented with any. I'm just Chadwick may know better, but I haven't been presented with anybody from the growth management level.
Any other questions for Mr. Steve? All right, Ms. Chadwick, you want to address that?
Yes, in the process of actually doing a site plan is when you then do a traffic study. And until you know what you're gonna put there, you can't do a traffic study. So that is part of the site plan process.
And that's what I was hoping Steve would have
And I spoke
would
with
have
Troy
chimed in on
Cruz.
that, and what I was trying to get at when I said the difference between a CPA and a Z petition versus an SPR.
Right, and
I mean, in theory, the proponent for whom you're acting as agent, even if there is a approval, you know, this evening or down the line, once that SPR comes to us, the site plan review that has the associated and attached transportation analysis, wastewater and stormwater analysis, et cetera, that would be a point where, you know, if the numbers and the figures and the studies don't add up, you know, you may have put a whole lot of time, energy, effort, and capital out to have this property rezoned and then be told, no, we reject your site plan, it's gonna stay vacant.
Right, and we realize that, but we are gonna follow every land development regulation.
But hopefully that'll put some of the public commenters at ease that even an approval at this early preliminary level on getting a comprehensive plan amendment change and a zoning change does not mean the project has been approved. Not until an SPR with all of the requisite background studies has been, you know, received by and analyzed by the city departments, do we start getting into actually approving the project to commence. What we're looking at here is strictly a CPA and a Z issue. That's what I was hoping you were gonna get to.
Yeah, that's correct.
So moving into the corner, do we have anyone that wishes to comment from down here? All right. Please approach. I saw some folks in the back motioning towards their ears. Are you guys having problems hearing us at the rostrum?
There's a lot of open seats up front.
Yeah, the entire front row is open. If you guys want to be able to hear, come on down.
That doesn't help in the Mesa.
Well, that gentleman.
I believe it is on.
Pretty tall. Just speaking to the mic.
It's on.
Yeah, it's on.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to your best of your knowledge and abilities?
I do.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address record for Mr. Angelo.
It's Carol, Carol, Geisler, Geisler, at 114 Southwest Deanna Terrace, Lake City, Florida, 32025. I live at the corner of Marvin Burnett and Deanna Terrace, which Marvin Burnett happens to be the truck route, the bypass truck route whenever 90's down, 47's down, I-75's down. So, and it's right where they put all the poles that were approved. So I can tell you right where it is. Now, for me to go anywhere from that location, I have to go down to Tomoka Lane to go over to Bascom Norris. I have been almost involved in 3 head-on collisions trying to go from Tomoka onto Bascom Norris heading towards 47 because it's a 45 mile an hour zone, but I can tell you nobody drives 45 there. And everybody forgets about that little road. So they come right, that's when they want to pass everybody before we get to the ball fields. The other issue I have is, and I know they're going to do a traffic study, which, and the infrastructure which has to be done. Also with the drainage was another, because you got a greenway there and Canyon Creek has already been flooded when they did the ball fields. So then they had to take property and to put in a retention to the back end for Canyon Creek. So as soon as you build something there, you're gonna have a drainage issue and you're gonna have a greenway issue. My concern is the amount of traffic, one, that'll be going down Marvin Burnett, which is a 35 mile an hour zone, not a 45. I can tell you that the tractor trailers come down there, they put on their brakes when they hit the curve. And I'm waiting for one time for somebody to go flying into the house that's right there, or even to the sheriff deputy's house that is right at the end of the curve. Some of the other issues is there is a potential for crime. As soon as you put in multi-elements, there is a potential for crime because you cannot do it. You can do the best background checks you can do on anybody, but sometimes it'll slip. The other thing that you've got there is what's going to be the impact to the sports complex? Are they going to restrict the hours of operation? There are times that the lights for the soccer field, which will be right behind it, are on until 11, 12 o'clock at night for soccer games. And then to the ball field that's right next to it, 11, 12 o'clock at night, or especially on a Saturday when they have one-day tournaments. What is going to be the loss of revenue to the city, to the county, because of the sports, if the hours of operations, are cut? One, you're gonna have less teams that can play. Are you gonna say, okay, 10 o'clock is the time frame? So that has to be looked at. You got 2 schools within a 2.5 block, 2.5 block. You've got Epiphany going up, Bascom Norris across 47, and then you got New Gen, which is right behind my house, on Marvin Burnett. At the time in the morning, that place is, you can barely get out on either road, any of the roads, Marvin Burnett, Bascom Norris. I have gone to 47, and this is just in the morning. You get to 47, and I have almost been hit by 3 tractor trailers who have run that red light and other cars because everybody is trying to get across, trying to go down the road. And if you put that much more traffic in there, because say you've got 176 units going in initially, say the 440, you have just doubled and tripled and possibly quadrupled the number of cars in that area, which would have the DOT and the county would have to figure out, with their impact study. Also, you gotta look out that we do have some endangered woodpeckers in the area. And the reason I know is because they like coming to the trees behind mine. They also go to the trees across the way. So one of the things that we also have to look at, in addition to the gopher tortoise, you have to look at the endangered woodpeckers, because you can't take those trees down if the endangered woodpeckers are there, which I do know that they're in that area because I have seen them. The other thing is emergency response. How is the city gonna be able to handle that area with the emergency response? I can already tell you that whether you're the county or the city, because of the increase in crime in Lake City as it is, when you see the amount of shootings, or the amount of, like, I can stand where I'm at, where I live, and I can hear shootings going around in the area. The emergency response, the evacuation road, Bascom Norris would become an evacuation road if anybody would have to leave due to any type of major storm. So if you add more personnel to that area, you have just now backed up an evacuation area. And that's it. That's basically what I have.
Okay, don't go anywhere quite yet. Any questions for the public commenter from members of the board? All right, thank you very much for your comments. You may be seated. So now we're gonna move back across the room, third row back, right behind Steve. Starting there with our city ladies. You guys got anything to say? All right, moving over, dark shirt. All right, light shirt. Denim jacket. Come on down. I told you, everyone's gonna get the chance to speak. This goes on as long as you guys want it to. You swear the testimony you're about to give tonight's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge and ability.
I do.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Christine Budd, CHRISTINE, Budd, BUDD, 150 Southwest Cessna Court, Lake City. Now, I understand the proponent or the applicant is Tennis Forever, and the land bordering the Cannon Creek Air Park, the run-up end area of the runway on Sisters Welcome Road is also owned by Tennis Forever. I just wanted to know if that area was likely to be rezoned at any time as high-density development, and are there any plans to develop? And that's it, really.
Okay, other first.
You're asking about the area on 47?
Well, it's on Sisters Welcome Road and it's owned by Tennis Forever, which is the same owner as the property on Bascom Norris. So I wanted to know, is this only site specific to Bascom Norris? Or is it likely that the Tennis Forever location on Sisters Welcome, where there's some old tennis courts, is also likely to be rezoned? And is there a likelihood of high-level density development there as well?
We had a hand in the back.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Please rise. Approach. You can just step to the side for a moment if he has a direct rebuttal to you there. Swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Very nice. Name with spelling, legal address of record?
Angel Wicklow, 231 Cessna Court, Lake City, Florida, 32025-163.
All right, and you have a direct answer to a question that was raised by Mrs. Budd in comment.
So we shut down that place and we're moving the tennis courts to this basketball.
Please speak into the microphone so the crowd can hear you.
We shut down that old area on that Sisters Welcome Road. It was not feasible. There was a lease that we had for a long time, and we are actually moving that operation to this Bascom Norris Drive, and you'll actually see tennis courts.
Bend it up. The microphone.
Oh, okay.
There you
Get it as high as I can. We shut down the operations at the Sisters Welcome Road. That was not our land. It was a long-term lease that we had for 5-6 years. And we have actually moved that operation. We're in the process of trying to move that operation to to the Baskin-Robbins, this new site, this 22 acres, you'll actually see the preliminary plan of the tennis courts and stuff like that. We actually had residential students at that place also, and we were heavily curtailed with the number of students that we could have. So we're actually we're trying to get this housing also to develop and make this a international tennis academy. Incidentally, I played tennis at an international level. Between me and my wife, we have 40 plus years of teaching, training kids at an international level. We have produced some of the finest players actually in Lake City. I would also take this opportunity to address another very important thing, and I know what actually upset everyone. It looks bad, okay? There are no trees absolutely, and when I picked up the property, the pines were cut, and there was nothing but roots and debris, and it was just nasty all over. We couldn't even walk around. It's taken us actually 3 years to kind of get those roots out. So if we put anything, it was a 3-year process. We kind of piled it together. Having said that, just after the traffic study, we do want to put nice trees. We're going to make that place look pretty. That site holds potential to be a very good attraction, and it's in line with whatever is going on. That's the reason we jumped on that and bought that site. So, I mean, all I'm trying to do is just get 50, 60 homes and make that site self-sufficient. And I don't want to upset anyone. I want to get nature. I'm a nature lover. Everybody knows that I actually save more cats in this town than anybody. I have 12 cats right now. So I'm a nature lover, okay? And turtles, woodpeckers, anything else that you can think of, we'll go and save them, and we'll create, whatever I can do to help Lake City. Thank you.
So as I understand it, he doesn't own the property anymore, those tennis courts on Sisters Welcome Road. So who does own the property? And is that likely to be developed?
I did not research that question prior to this meeting, so I'm not in a position to answer that for you.
There's a hand in the back.
There's a hand in the back.
I actually want to add on to her question. Maybe he can answer it for me.
Sit down.
Hold on, can this wait until we get around to you?
Sure.
Okay, there we go.
It was at the same time, so that.
I just don't want to have to jump around. We're working on a good rotation here.
I'll say, it does sound like the Sisters Welcome location is not, this is not at all pertaining to that. So unless whoever owned that specific location put forth a petition to do something different,
And that would
we
be
wouldn't know.
totally separate.
Yeah. that would-
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Very nice, thank you, Ms. Budd. Okay, so moving towards the aisle, the two right here. Different topic, okay. Moving to the third row, black shirt, first off the aisle. Feel free to come on down.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to your best of your skills and knowledge?
I do.
Very nice. Name with spelling plus legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Jim Phillips, that's Phillips. Address is 235 Northwest Cracknell Way, Lake City, 32055. Obviously, I don't live close to it, but
Can you pull the mic a little bit closer so the folk in the back can hear you?
obviously with my address, I don't live close to there, but I am the senior warden at St. James Episcopal Church. And we have no opinions one way or the other what gets built on that piece of property. We don't really care. The only problem we have is some of the range that we have now, with nothing there, our parking lot is underwater, basically. Now, we have installed pumps even in our parking lot to pump it to the other side of the church. Our only concern is basically drainage. If they cover that land up with buildings and roads, hopefully they will put some kind of drainage ditches in there that will allow the water to run away from us to somewhere else, a retaining pond or something. I know the two ponds along the road there stay pretty full. So that's our only concern. We're not concerned whether they build 100 houses or 1,000 houses. That's fine, whatever. That may be more people for us, but we're just concerned with water. You know, we don't need any more water on our property than we have now. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'd like to address that.
Sure.
Yes, with the submittal with the site plan is also a stormwater management plan that is permitted by either FDEP or definitely in this case, it will be Swanee River Water Management District, which it's going to, they look at every drainage study very closely. And knowing what the site looks like with the topography, it would probably lessen the water that's going off to that site. We would take everything on this site and direct it to a stormwater management facility, which would be historically less water going to anywhere to the offsite properties. So it would most likely, in the long run, benefit the church.
Does anyone from the board have any comment or any questions to direct to Mr. Phillips before I?
Public comment, can we hear from this?
Mr. Brown? Mr. Brown? He was asking, he had a question for you.
Can we hear from you based on what they just said?
Sorry about that, I was checking emails.
Based on what they just said, can we hear your comment on what she just said?
So,
About storm?
yeah, so what Ms. Chadwick said is correct. We would have to have a letter from Swanee River Water Management or the governing body that said that they would not impact anybody else with any stormwater. Again, this is very early in this process, so we don't have that yet.
You don't even know
But as
if
they
that's the thing.
submitted the site plan, it would be required that we would know where all the stormwater's going.
Does the county have issues with that as well, as far as that and the instructions?
The county did not have that in their email. Their email was strictly about the infrastructure and the traffic count on the roadway. But I do know that they do have some concerns. I do not know if it's stormwater related. But again, in the stormwater arena, we would have to have a letter from Swanee River Water Management saying that the church would not be impacted before it would be approved.
Thank you.
Did any other members of the board have any questions they wanted to ask Mr. Phillips before I release him? All right, moving down third row, dark purple shirt, tan hat. Okay, jumping back one, we'll come back to you as the owner at the end. Moving over, gray shirt. Okay, coming across the aisle, plaid shirt. Come on down.
Gerald, G-R-A-L-D, Klauber, K-L-A-U-B-E-R, 186 Southwest Orange Blossom Court, Lake City.
All right, let's do this part first. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to your best of your knowledge and abilities.
Yes, it is.
Very nice.
It's got one question. I hear all this talk about.
Into the microphone, please.
Okay, got one question. I hear all this talk about stormwater management and the liability of stormwater going into parking lots, houses, and whatever. Assuming a site plan is approved by the county, a comprehensive site plan that addresses traffic issues and the density issues and everything else, who is liable for the cost of this water management?
She can answer direct.
The developer is responsible for the cost of all of the development.
I'm talking about all water management
Yes.
for the outside of the development.
For his property,
So
yes.
now where are they gonna direct that water?
Well, seeing that the wetland was previously delineated, I've been in touch with the soil scientist for that. Towards the back of the property, near the soccer fields would be a stormwater management facility, and any water draining from that would be directed into the wetlands, which would actually improve the quality of the wetlands.
Okay, that's really nice, sounds good. Bottom line is, how much does the taxpayer pick up of this project?
Absolutely none.
Guaranteed?
Yes.
Okay, the developer will pay 100%
Yes.
of all costs incurred.
That's what developers do, yes.
Okay? We'll see.
I want to see the review on that.
That's all I have.
That's all you have? Do we have any questions from the board for the public commenter? Very nice, you may be seated. Okay, moving in, starting to have a hard time seeing folks, but moving to his right, to my left. Blue shirt? No. Moving over, I see a blue hat. Oh. Okay, jumping back one row, gray jacket.
Can we give you our name if we are concerned, but my concerns have already been voiced.
Very nice.
Can we do that after it's over with?
After, please see that your name and address gets given to Mr. Angelo. Gray jacket in the back. White shirt. Moving over. On the aisle. Okay, back row of chairs, white jacket. Next to her. Okay, standing up. Oh, red shirt. Come on down.
Hi.
Swear testimony you're about to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, to the best of your knowledge and abilities.
Yes,
Very nice. Name with spelling plus legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
my name is Patricia Morrison, P-A-T-R-I-C-I-A, M-O-R-R-I-S-O-N. My address is 1048 Southwest Rossboro Court, Lake City.
All right, and what is your comment?
My comment is basic, a lot of my comments have already been covered by the other people. It has to do with the infrastructure, but what some of the other people didn't mention, that in addition to the roads where the planned development is, it's also the surrounding roadways in that area. There's more than 2 schools that service the community in that area. There's the elementary school, Summers Elementary, Lake City Middle School. The children cannot even walk safely as it stands right now from New Generation Christian going downwards in this area. From the middle school, the traffic is so backed up. There's probably approximately 6 school zones from the elementary school back to that area. The traffic is typically at a standstill in the morning. I work 5 minutes. My office is 5 minutes from my home. It takes me 20 minutes to get there through the school zones, the traffic, multiple lights. I really don't think the infrastructure is there for a whole new development to support. I don't know how many people they plan on having in this development, but there'll be multiple people, multiple vehicles, children attending schools. Our roadways aren't set up for that many additional vehicles. Our schools are at capacity for additional children. The busing of the children for schools, the transportation, there's gonna be problems with that. The additional infrastructure, shopping, and other support services are already strained. I don't see where they're going to be able to support maybe another 100, 200 families. I'm talking about different shopping, getting to the post office. Anybody who goes shopping here anymore knows that it's almost impossible to get into the parking lot at Publix. Parking lot at Winn-Dixie is overflowing. Same thing at Walmart. There's a lot of work to be done to the infrastructure in many areas, not just this, but I think it would be contributing to an already existing problem. The traffic does reroute in front of the elementary school, goes down McFarland, Grandview, then it cuts back through and try to get back on 90, or tries to keep going. People try to keep going back behind all the way further down 90 and come out on Real. People are talking about car accidents. That's true. It's constant. People run the lights because they're getting tired of waiting. And I just wanted to voice that. Please take that into consideration when you make your decision. It's not just that roadway, it's the entire neighborhoods surrounding this area.
Right, one thing I can tell you, as part of the process, if this does move to the next step, which would be a site plan review, if the CPA and the zoning are changed and adopted, This board has begun operating in very close concert with the Columbia County School Board, farming some of these larger projects out for their review and comment. And that becomes one of the items of record that goes into the file alongside a wastewater study, a traffic analysis study, an infrastructure study, et cetera. So when you say that our schools are at capacity and we can't handle any more pupils on that side of the city limits.
I know there's other schools,
There-
I can't speak for that.
There are mechanisms whereby these issues do get addressed and do get brought up after this early preliminary stage. So
Okay, I just was very concerned about that.
just to set your
Alright,
concerns aside.
Yeah, and as well as the road.
We do keep up with some of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Anything else for us?
No, I just want to voice my concerns about the additional neighborhoods.
Okay, any questions from members of the board for the public commenter? Very nice.
Thank you.
All right, so moving from her position along the back wall, black and white striped shirt. Come on down. Swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your skill and ability?
I do.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo. In the mic.
Donald Downs, DONDOWNS, 121 Southwest Cessna Court, Lake City. I'll keep this real quick because I know you haven't turned it on yet, but I know you're lining it up.
We're almost through this. I think we're looking good. I mean, only an hour and 10 of public comments. We're doing pretty good.
Okay. I want to just first state that I'm a neighbor to John, and I consider him a friend. And all of this comes up here real quick, where people become concerned and we start hearing about this. There's just a couple of concerns that I have, and I think they're similar to others in the neighborhood. All this stuff about the traffic has been addressed. If you've ever been on Bascom, you're sitting there at Sisters Welcome or you're sitting out there at the next light, there's no way out. So I can envision overpasses or something because otherwise it's going to be impossible. But that again is the next step. They're going to address looking at that. What we're really concerned about is there's land between, on the other side of Bascom Norris. There's land there from the Social Security up to that water management project with the, you know what I'm talking about, and then beyond. And we're talking about, and this should be a concern also of Amjan's, is the property values in our area. If you set a precedent by putting multifamily, high density in that area, then what's gonna happen to that over across the street where we could wind up with 100 million houses in there, all that kind of stuff? And when you're talking about high density, I don't understand, maybe I just heard something that didn't quite make sense to me, that these things that are proposed are 2-bedroom. That's not really high-density families, that's like 2 bedrooms, okay? And if they're gonna train people to do tennis or whatever it is in 2-bedroom houses, I don't believe he's gonna have enough to fill up what's been proposed with two people in a dwelling that wanna learn how to play tennis. So there's gonna have to be some other people living in that. I don't really understand how that makes sense. If you're gonna have a few places like a hotel where people come in, stay for a little while and learn how to play, I get it. But if you're gonna put in 80 or 100 or 120 or 200 dwellings or whatever it is in there, they're not all gonna learn the tennis, so there's something else going on there. We just don't want, and I don't want this to be racist or whatever you wanna call it, but we don't wanna set the precedent in that area of having high-density housing that can become other things that would not only clog that up like crazy, but it would have an effect on the property values of established communities such as Cannon Creek and other neighborhoods in that area.
All right, any questions for Mr. Downs from members of the board? Very nice, you may be seated. Okay, so starting from where Mr. Downs was seated, ma'am in the striped shirt.
I'm Elaine Phillip.
You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, to the best of your knowledge and ability?
So help me, yes.
There you go. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
My name is Elaine Phillips, Elaine Phillips. I live at 356 Southwest Air Park Glen, Lake City, Florida. Did I give you enough information? Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's hear it.
Well, I'm a resident of Cannon Creek Air Park. I'm one of the oldest, I'm afraid. In fact, I am the oldest in Cannon Creek. We've been there for 32 years. I have been serving as president of the associations and the Young Eagles and other organizations in the air park. Probably this all happened before most of the people in the room. We did have problems with things wanting to come in around the air park, and you have to go through the National Transportation Safety Board and the airplanes organizations. These organizations that were trying to come in were turned down because of safety. When an airplane takes off and it will be going over these houses, they're low. If something goes wrong, they're going to go down and crash. Now, we have not had that problem in the past, but it's possible. I mean, anything is possible. And these groups that had tried to come in were all turned down. And I'm sure this was before any of you all were familiar with it. I did not have time. I didn't know about this. We were away over Christmas. My husband's in England, and I don't get out. So I was not aware that this was going on until just a couple of days ago. And I did not have time to look up the information from the past where we had had these problems with people applying for things in the area. They were turned down because of safety. Because again, if these houses are two-story and our airplanes are low when they take off and come in for landing, there can be a problem. There's also the lights. There would be a lot of lights, and an airplane coming in at night, it might. I haven't tried to land with lights around Cannon Creek. So
It's a thrill.
it definitely is a thrill, flying. I've taught school all my life. I might have had a very bad day at school. I'd go over to the airport, get in the airplane and take off, and the world was wonderful. Headaches gone, no problems. So I don't want to see Cannon Creek Air Park shut down because of neighbors who don't like the airplane noise, who don't want the airplanes flying over their house. And believe me, our north-south runway would go over this property, it would be low, and they would start complaining about the noise. I had friends up in Virginia who were like us. They went out in the country, they had a place out there where nobody else was around, and pretty soon all these developments started coming in, and the airport was shut down because the people complained of the noise. We've even had people try to tell us that we can't take off before, say, 9 o'clock in the morning, and that we can't land it late at night because it bothered them with their company and noise in their home. We don't want to be shut down. We've been here since 1983. That's when it all began with us developing. Now, some of the things I want to mention that I think has been sort of mentioned, but there is a water drainage problem. The north drains down onto our airport. They have tried for years to correct it. And there are people who can tell you that every time we have a hard rain, they are flooded out. They can't get their airplanes out. They can't go flying. We don't want this to happen. You put in a big development like they're wanting to put in, you're gonna have the ground dug up and it's gonna be streets and buildings and things where the water can't drain and it's all gonna come down on us. Another problem is you have to get this approved through the National Transportation Safety Board. They wanna know what's around the airports and whether it is safe. And again, the two petitions that we had for putting up developments around us were turned down because of the National Transportation Safety Board. We're close to the ball fields. That means there's going to be a lot of little kids. There's going to be parents coming out to watch the games. There's the traffic on Bascom Norris Road. We don't need a big development where there is going to be a lot of people there. We wouldn't mind some houses with single families. That's what they built across the street for us. None of that was out there when the air park was developed. There were no homes out there. We just feel like the development with, I don't know how many buildings. I didn't know about this early enough to prepare for this. But there's at least, I think, 8 or 9 two-story buildings going into that property. That's just my guess. She can probably tell us exactly how many buildings there were going to be. But that's going to be a lot of people that are going to be going in and out on Bascom Norris and be over at the ball fields, and this may cause a problem in the future. As I mentioned before, they need to know that when airplanes take off and land, we're low. That means we're going to be going right over the top of those houses. Not hundreds of feet, but close. They're not going to want that, and they're going to be complaining about it, and we don't want to take the chance of crashing into their house. And we haven't had any crashes, so we are a very safe airport. The noise of the airplanes is another problem. People complain about the noise that the airplanes make. If we fly out late at night and these kids are all in bed trying to go to sleep, they're going to be complaining about the noise of the airplanes coming in and going out. Yes. Have they had this approved as a safe place for apartment buildings? Right over or next to the airfield where we would be going over and coming in over them? Have they got it approved by the National Transportation Safety Board?
Are you asking me direct?
Well, I'm asking somebody.
Those approvals would all come subsequently in the next phase of this. This is exclusively for a comprehensive plan amendment and a zoning change, not actually for what could be built there.
That's super important, I feel like, to reiterate that many of the questions that are being raised tonight would be answered prior to the next phase in the process of what they're trying to achieve. Whether or not they would ever be able to achieve it or not isn't up for debate tonight, necessarily. This is about the zoning of the place, but before there was a building, before there was breaking ground, those kind of things, there were a ton of things obviously would have to be done to see if it was even possible.
Well, I'm just concerned. As I said, I've been there 32 years. People come in and build houses and we pay high taxes, very high taxes. And you put in low income housing or high density, you're gonna get less taxes from us because our taxes will go down, our property will be devalued. And we're concerned about that. We don't want our property to be devalued. I mean, we spent money and time to build this and to put in an airfield with hangars and homes for everyone. And we just want to make sure that we're protected as much as the other people in the community. We don't want to see us shut down because the other people start complaining about the airplanes. Do you have any questions? I really wasn't prepared.
Can we
for
keep
this.
the whispering to a minimum out in the audience? Everyone was quiet while your comments were being made. Let's be respectful of the folks at the podium.
As I said, I wasn't really prepared for this. I'm just jotting off things that I remember from the past.
Do we have any additional questions from members of the board for the public commenter?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cooper?
So if this board was to give you more time, would you be prepared in bringing up the other groups that wanted to also build that were denied prior to?
Oh my, I'd have to do a lot of digging. Because, you know how that goes. The thing takes place, but people don't save all the paperwork and everything that was involved.
If I may, it seemed like when you were speaking about the approval from the transportation organization that Ms. Chadwick had something to say about that specifically?
Yes, yes, I do. Yes,
Microphone, please.
looking at the aerial photo and the way that the runway is lined, my house is directly under the path. I live in Grandview Village and I never hear the airplanes. I can't imagine that there are that many that are going by. And I don't feel that I should worry about an airplane crashing into my house either. I mean, it's always a possibility wherever you live. Now, I do have experience designing development in direct line with runways. So I understand that if this is in the direct line of the runway, then there are high building restrictions, depending on how far you are from the end of the runway. But I don't see that this is in line with that at all. But I will definitely check into it and see if there is an airport overlay for safety for the people on the ground and the pilots and their passengers.
To go to comment on her talk, airplanes don't always go just straight out and don't make any turns. When you take off, depending on where you're going, after you reach a certain distance off the end of the runway, you make your turn. And so you will be going over many of the development. You will not just directly bypass it. You will.
And that clearly would be the purview of the NTSB or the FAA. A simple planning and zoning board for a small city such as ourselves. We don't control airspace here. That's outside our wheelhouse. The proponent wish to address your comments, ma'am?
I wanted to. I'm also learning how to fly a little bit, taking a couple of hours. Don knows that.
You can move the microphone.
But I think before the plane hits any of those buildings, it's gonna hit those long lights on the soccer field, which are bright and the kids around there. So I think the plane's first gonna hit that, and that would be probably the first concern. They're really high. I don't think the building's gonna go over those. How are they gonna hit the buildings first?
maybe I'm missing something, but I'm sure that if they're coming in from over the soccer fields, they'll hit those lights first. And first of all, this is a very negative conversation, and we should not be, we should not be talking about planes crashing and stuff like that.
Again, control of the airspace is not the purview of this simple planning and zoning board. Those are issues that will be addressed by a duly, impaneled federal agency, not the city of Lake City. We don't control airspace here.
To reply to him, they would be going over the ball fields, coming in for a landing, but taking off, they're going over the housing development.
Any other questions from members of the board?
Crash right into those buildings, or even into the ballparks if they were to go that area. Now, if they're coming in for a landing from the north to the south, then yes, they would hit the poles. But taking off, I can tell you, they could crash into my house because that's how they are. And I'm right at the corner. So with her perspective, that is exactly where we come from.
Thank you for the clarification. All right.
And I apologize because I didn't really prepare.
You're fine, ma'am, don't worry.
Well, you know a school teacher always can stand up and talk.
There you go. You be well. All right, so starting from where Miss Phillips was seated, moving over to my left, your right. Ma'am, you had a comment, come on down.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge and ability?
I do.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Liz Fryer, L-I-Z, last name F-R-E-Y-R-E, 160 Southwest Challenger Lane, Lake City, Florida, 33025. I'm here on behalf of not just myself, but many of the concerned taxpayers, homeowners in the area. Logistically, it is a very undesirable location based on traffic, school proximity to the area that is being proposed for zoning change, the sports complex proximity, as well as a plan that is not complete. Because I have reviewed the plans that were recently given by Mr. Angelo, and it is not a complete plan. It is a partial plan that is being only done for rezoning, is it not?
Correct, we're not at the site plan review phase yet.
Exactly. But looking at the documentation, it says approved, 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 which leads to believe that you guys have done your logistics and research. And from what I have heard so far, we're extremely on the preliminary side of this.
Those approvals would be for that preliminary phase.
Okay.
Not-
Yeah, those are not final recommendations of approval.
There's a lot before that.
Matter of fact, Ms. Chadwick would probably have to appear before us, at least 2 more times probably?
That's correct, 2 more times. I have reviewed and we spoke about that. More density, regardless of type, creates more crime. I worked for the Department of Defense for many years as a mediator, and I'm here to tell you that the more people that you have, regardless their financial status or not, becomes a problem. Whether it is the nicest high-rise or the nicest home, the more people you have, the more bad influences come from other areas. And nobody can dispute that.
Amen.
The next thing that I would like to say is the fact that the total of units, whether it is a total of 80, 150, or 500, is not relevant Once the zoning is changed, it's changed. The next problem I have is the fact that can somebody clarify for me if the request for a business license, which sounds to me, if it is a business license, it would be then for rental and business type zoning that will go into place. Nobody has clarified that portion either, in any way, shape, or form. It's nice to change the zone, then you can't change it back, because it's already been done. There's a precedent done, it's done, end of story. The sports complex brings one of the greatest revenues to Lake City. Nobody can dispute that. The tourism, not just for stores, restaurants, and all commercial, as well as hotels and motels in the area, lives partially because of that sports complex. That's where our children go to play safely. That is where people from other areas come with their families to enjoy. And it breaks my heart that unfortunately, multi-family units are going to take into that section that we have for our families, and now they're bringing in all these additional renters, guests, tennis players, whatever they may be, and it's going to take away from the sports complex. Like previously someone had brought up, the lights in the sports complex are going to be an issue for these apartment complexes. The time limits that those lights can be on is also going to be an issue. Somebody else also had brought up the fact that how many students, tennis players, are you actually going to bring in when you have 100 and some odd units of 2 bedrooms each? What's going to happen with the leftover apartments that are going to be empty? Obviously, these are not going to be long-term rentals. These are obviously short-term positions. Here's my biggest concern. When you live in an area like most of us have, we take care of it because it is our pride, it is our home. When you go somewhere on vacation, you do not take the same care of the surrounding areas. I know, I go to the islands, I travel the world. And sadly, when there's a lot of people coming in from other areas, it is no longer your hometown. Okay? It's proven that when you rent or is something short-term, it's transient. The care is not there for the community. The neighborhood is no longer a neighborhood of sheltered families that love each other and care for each other when one is sick, because they come and go continuously. And nobody can tell me it's not, because it is. The increase of density, adding zoning to single-family home residential areas and neighborhoods encourages absentee owners, okay? If you wanted to eventually turn them into condos. And they will be again rentals. There is no proof that along the way, they could not unfortunately turn into low home income facilities. There's no way to prove that they're not. If he cannot meet his requirements for his taxes, to pay his bills on those properties, he's gonna do whatever, as any business owner. I've been a business owner, most of us have. You will do whatever it takes to make your business a success and to make money, because that's what we're in business for. So what's going to happen? Is it going to be like the other facility that you had a lease for several years, and I want to ask questions upon that? And now it has been, whether he owns it or he leased it, for however many years, abandoned and an eyesore to the community? That is very aggravating to me. Because the people who live here, this is their home. This is their hometown. Many of us have come from other areas to live here because we love what we see here. And I don't want it to change. I don't want it to get into a no longer area where people feel safe and their children can grow happily. It's bad enough in some areas, and we all know where those areas are, that our children are not safe. And nobody can tell me that people who come to live, whether it's 2 months, 3 months, a year, are going to take care of each other the way we all do as neighbors. And that's what's important about Lake City. This is a neighborhood town. This is a family-oriented place, not a tourist trap. I'm sorry, I'm Hispanic. Island people are very emotional. There is way too much irrelevant, uneducated questions on the side of the petitioner and his representative. It's a lot to me, a lot more of guesstimates than facts. And that's why most of us are here. We don't want guesstimates, we want facts. Another thing that concerns me, like it was previously brought up, the school board in the area is not equipped, but then again, he says it's just for students of tennis. But they may have families and they may stay longer. So will somebody like to give me a study of the logistics for the school board to appropriate children? Because, you know, I don't know, I'm sure that he was and his wife were wonderful tennis players. I've never heard of him. I know he's a neighbor, but I don't know if his school or the classes that he will teach will bring in sufficient students to make a livelihood maintain so many units. So to me, those units are eventually gonna turn into rentals. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. The LLC, I would like him to explain to me when his lease started and when his lease ended.
Ma'am, let me stop you there. We're not at a meeting where we cross-examine other
Okay.
members of the public. You can feel
Well,
free to ask.
he opened it.
You can feel free to ask those questions after this meeting, but we're not about to impanel an investigation
Well,
about
I'm
his
not asking
other
for an
property
investigation.
concerns. We're
What
only
he-
dealing with this specific property parcel right now,
Correct,
not other property parcels he may have had
but
an
it is
interest in
relevant to
the
the
past.
question. No, it's relevant to the question, because he opened it when he said that he only leased it for a couple of years, and he's not part of it and he doesn't own it anymore. I just wanted to know how long ago that lease was up, because he opened the question, and I wanted an answer. Because it is relevant, because it would prove, depending on the dates and in the state of that property, when the lease ended and started and when its decay became effective.
Okay, that is not the subject of this meeting, however. You can
Okay,
ask
I
those
understand
questions on your own time, but we've been here for almost 2
I
hours.
understand.
Do you have any other comments you would like to make as a public commenter addressing this petition?
Yes, I would like to make the comment that I'm opposed, as obviously most people in this room are, and for the reasons I have brought up.
All right. Do we have
Thank you for
any-
your time.
Do we have any,
Questions?
what, don't run off yet. Do we have any questions from members of the board for the public commenter? No. All right. There you go, thank you very much. In the back,
Yes,
come on.
thank you.
And like I said, we've been here for almost 2 hours, so let's try to be a little quicker. We've only got about 6 more people to move through, and then we're done with this process. Swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to your best of your knowledge and abilities.
I do.
Very nice. Name and address of record for Mr. Angelo.
My name is Mark Devine, D-E-V-I-N-E. My address is 315 Southwest Challenger Lane, Lake City. The only document that I have for this project is this comprehensive plan amendment. So that means it's not the original one. and I don't know if it's complete. So I didn't have time to review all the documents, and for my questions and comments, what I wanted to do was just to go to the 2 letters that were provided in this document by the engineer. So the engineer has responded to some questions or aspects.
It's a self-survey, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So in December 7th, there was a statement whether the proposed project would be in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan. And the response was, yes, it is. Now, I would imagine a comprehensive plan would be based on existing zoning and population growth. So just to say, yes, it is a little vague. They said that no single-family residential zone properties will be impacted. Well, you can see from the discussion tonight that, well, a lot of people feel they would be impacted. And they said additional students may be present in the district as a result of this development. No calculations were provided as to how many students, what age groups they might be in, etc. Now here's a general statement. Houses is needed in the area due to the increase in people moving to the area. Well, that's true, but that doesn't seem to support that you're going to change your existing zoning because people are moving to the area. The woman just said, people move to an area because they like the current zoning. They like the way the city is set up. They like the population balance. Talked about that. It says that a proposed change will not grant special privileges to the owner. So I take exception to that because you're changing the zoning. So that's a special privilege to the owner of this property to build differently on this property than is currently allowed. And the owner wants to construct multifamily housing, which is not compatible with current zoning. Exactly. So what has happened with current zoning? Is it obsolete? They mentioned a comprehensive plan that has gone through 2023. So is that plan being revised or looked at again? Is it incomplete or out of date? And overall, there's a need for multifamily properties to service the area. So I happened to find another comprehensive permit, which was for the Legends of Lake City. That has 216 units. So it seems like some of the need for housing is being addressed there. Then we go to the engineer's December 19th letter. And it says, sorry for the delay. It says that urban development areas is established within the comprehensive plan. So therefore, is the comprehensive plan dictating where residential areas are now going to be urban development areas? I don't know that they would be. They also state that no traffic will impact any residential neighborhoods. But there were no calculations about traffic or flows, and you've heard stories from multiple people tonight about how the traffic varies a lot there and can be quite significant, especially game days and sports fields. So to say that it won't impact any residential neighborhoods, I think that's an inappropriate statement. And let's see here. And it's, again, multifamily housing is needed in this area due to the amount of people relocating here. And again, that's because people are relocating here because they like the current arrangement. Here's a statement. The proximity of the site to existing amenities will not cause any adverse effects to the existing land use. No facts to back that up, or information, or analysis. And then it says the site will be served by existing sewer and water systems. But in the back of this package is a document that is called Review Report to Planning and Zoning, blah, 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 for site plan review, blah, blah, blah. And that's from various departments in the city. So here's the water department's response. No permits at this time. Here's the sewer department, no commits at this time. Here's the water distribution, no commits at this time. So it seems to me that they are not committing that they would be able to serve the facility. And I also wanted to stress, I was an engineer for decades, been to many meetings, many zoning changes, and the current owner is wonderful. Everybody's great, they all love them, they want to do something different, that's terrific. But as you know, if you change zoning, the woman before me noted, it's changed forever. So when that owner moves, passes away, sells it, that zoning stays. So I would suggest that you don't rely on the reputation of the current owner as an example of what's going to happen with that property in the future. So thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it.
Carter, Mr. Cooper, any questions for Mr. Devine? Okay. Mr. Angelo or Mr. Brown, would you like to comment a little bit about the self-certification process that we have the proponents go through when they do their application, and how it's not meant to be a scientific study, it's just a self-assessment?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so when they come before our every 2 week meeting that we have, which is a new development meeting, again, majority of what we see is preliminary at that point. Once they pass any.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about departmental review, I'm talking about the questionnaire that Ms. Chadwick's firm had answered with, you know, do you see any issues with this? Do you see any issues with this?
That's where we
The self-assessment that then goes to the city departments to look at.
Yes.
How that is not a foundational study, that is not a letter from Water Management District, that is merely a self-assessment, correct?
Correct. So with the way that would be based is they would ask us, is there availability in the area? That is not a guarantee that there's gonna be 50,000 gallons a minute. There's no guarantee on that. Or 10 decatherms of gas an hour. There is no guarantee on that. So in this case, in this particular case, what was actually asked was, is there sewer availability in the area? And the distribution and collections director said that there is in fact a manhole in that area that they could use for gravity flow. However, they never confirmed the exact capacity because we haven't got that far yet. But when they asked preliminary for the purpose of these meetings, they haven't committed to an exact capacity, but there is a manhole in the area that could be utilized. Natural gas is the same way. There's a 3-inch poly gas line out there. Yes, gas is available. Now, if they come in at a later date and say they're gonna put an asphalt plant out there, obviously that's a no-go.
Need a little more gas for that.
Right, but for the purpose of the document that was being read, and the reason why that's done before, as you mentioned, before it goes to any further stages, if there was absolutely zero capacity, no way it could be done, then at that point in time, they're addressed. It is not available, period. We cannot service anything in that area. If in fact it is a capacity issue, there is the availability of the developer to pay out of their pocket to upgrade the infrastructure. But again, we're preliminary. We don't have that information yet. So when we put in there that we don't have a commitment or we don't have a comment on it, or yes, there is availability in the area, that's our very first step before it comes to us as a site plan.
Great. All right, thank you for that clarification. All right, so on the back wall, coming into the home stretch, blue shirt, red jacket, come on down. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge and ability?
I do.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Mark Sires, M-A-R-K-S-I-R-E-S, 166 Southwest Skyhawk Drive. My biggest concern is traffic and drainage, which has already been addressed. I would say at this point, having heard all the comments, I would support the zoning change. if for no other reason that will then get the traffic study we needed funded so we can find all the answers to all the other questions we have. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, very nice. Do we have any questions for Mr. Sires from members of the board? All right, you may be seated. All right, starting from where Mr. Sires was seated, moving to my left, your right, almost all the way into the corner. Oh, there we go. Brown hat, come on down.
Good evening.
Swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge and ability.
It is.
Very nice. Name with spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
John Wells, W-E-L-L-S, 207 Southwest Confederate Glen, Lake City. It is my observance this evening that, and my previous understanding, that this property was and has been for quite a while owned by folks that have an interest in tennis. And the property corporation was listed as Tennis Forever. Well, it seems that a lot of us were on board with that. Sounded reasonable. It's in an athletic area. And there was even a possibility mentioned about hotels or something down there for folks. It seems all of a sudden the zoning has changed from what it was as single-family homes and smaller density to multiple family homes, much more density, much more populous. And with that comes all the things that have been mentioned, additional traffic, issues with the structure, the substructure of the property for water, for electricity, for all of those things, driveways, parking lots, and the additional traffic on Bascom Norris, which feeds into 41, 441, and 90, and then all the way up to several places. And it's a horrific problem at certain times of the day for those people living in the area. Now, it does not appear that the board has gotten any other information that we just want to change the zoning. Well, if we change the zoning, that kind of opens a door to, well, whatever happens next. And how do we know that that'll do it? I would prefer to see a plan in place, what is being built for, for the ability of people to come and go, live there, whatever, and see what's going to be before I gave gave a legal right to just change everything without any understanding what's going to be there. And the other big concern that I personally and many of us have, you've heard voiced, is the domino effect of this zoning change going to properties adjacent to it and across Bascom Norris specifically, for those of us in Cannon Creek Air Park, because we have Mr. Hunter's property, the big properties for sale there, the old development that never was, which has got roadways in it and was set up, it's for sale again. And all of that backs up to us. And we have had, as several people have alluded to, a water issue, which the grand plan of the big ditch, I call it, because it runs right along the whole edge of the air park and by my property too, which turned out quite well, I might add, and it's helped quite a bit. There's been some places where they could have done a little bit more, and we continue to attempt to get that done. But that's just one of the things that's a big problem. And I would much prefer to see the board find out what's going to be there before they give a carte blanche on a zoning that could go on and on and on. Thank you very much.
All right, this time we've moved around the entire room. Everyone that's had the opportunity to speak has had the opportunity to speak. We'll bring you back up. We have to cut your comments off short earlier as our first speaker.
After 36 years in the military, I hope I can keep this concise.
All right, Ms. Shippey, please keep it concise.
Okay. A lot of the things, as you can see my pile over there got a lot bigger, this one a lot smaller. A lot of things have been addressed. I'd like to go back to the self, where it's got objective 1 and then it says consistency. One of the things was the future land use, planned area for there. Future land use for that area is to remain residential single family 2. The public facilities that are available there at present do not support the zoning change. There are all the things that have gone through here that have been discussed, as well as things that will continue to be discussed in the next 2 forums. I'd like to say a couple of really quick things. I'm sorry. Okay, there's already wetlands in that area, and there's already a flood zone in that area on that piece of property. So those are things that will need to be considered as well. But that also creates a concern for us here, because those do already exist. Public safety, we're talking lights, we're talking sidewalks, we're talking perhaps based on the rezoning, and if I'd like to go back to that, we are talking about going from single family 4 units per acre to 20 units per acre. So we are looking at a difference of I'm sorry, I had the numbers. Up to 441 people, 441 units, up to. Can't go beyond that, but it can certainly go up to that point. So regardless of what Mr. Viplaub may want to do, we don't know what he wants to do. He's put in a projection for 88 units. He can do that, and I understand he can't do that under an RST1, because it would be considered he's a renter. He needs the business plan. He needs the business license. In order to do that, he has to go to multifamily 1 or 2. 1 has been skipped over. 1 gives him access to 176 units. And yet the projection, the proposal, is for an RST2, which is going to give up to 441 units. Okay, that is not in consistency with what's in that area. It is not supported by anything that is presently available in that area. So we're back to zoning, and the zoning is unreasonable. I do not see why we cannot go at least to that number 1 step, and then if later in the future we're all dead, we can go up to the next one, okay? So that's all. I'm going to save the rest of it. I still would like to see this tabled, if not denied, based on the difference in the RSF1 and the RMF1 versus RMF2. The other thing that I'd like to talk or ask about is, early on when I was first up here, Carol had made a comment that the North Florida, whomever that this goes to.
North Florida Regional Planning Council.
Exactly. That she had been, that the owner did not make any request for any specific zoning, that they were told that that was the zoning that would be recommended, okay? Excuse me, I tested today, doctor testing, negative. Just so you know, I'm not gonna get you sick. My understanding is that the request was put in for the multifamily high density by the owner. So that does not compute. The last thing that I want to say is that I have a neighbor, a friend, who lives at the end of Tomoko, on the corner of Tomoko and Baskin Norris. Her family has been on that location, it's a 4-acre location, for 40 years, okay? We talked about crime, we talked about many things, okay? I'm gonna start with her comments because she has asked me, she does not want to speak directly. She is a person of color. She is furious at the proposed zoning for this location. Furious. She says that the crime that's already present in that area is ridiculous. And she has made calls after call after call about things that are going on, and she is still, just with the way things are now, with nothing there, not being addressed. She says she's waited 2-3 hours for someone to show up when she's called about loitering in the streets or obvious drug sales going on in that parking lot, okay? So that's an issue that she has. The other thing I'd like to say about our property values, and that is it has nothing to do with socioeconomic, has nothing to do with race, it has nothing to do with gender, it has nothing to do with age. When you put 441 units in one location on a 22-acre plot, you're gonna have crime go up, okay? As homeowners in that area, okay, between Aurora Lane, Deanna, Cannon Creek Air Park, the location that is behind the church and adjacent in the back, there's that housing area that's back there, those homes back there. Crime's gonna go up. And I will say this, it's a perception. And the perception is, if you own a plane, you're a millionaire. Okay? If you own a plane, you're wealthy. All right? There are teachers, there's retired military, there's retired police officers that have worked their entire lives to be able to participate in this sport. When these things happen, when the crime increases, again, for all the reasons, no other reason than density, which is what we're talking about in this zoning. For no other reason than density, they're gonna go look for the ones that got money, or think they. Okay? They're gonna go to the locations on Aurora because there's a politician who lives there. Okay? They gotta have money. They're gonna go down Deanna because, well, Deanna is part of Canyon Creek because you gotta get there through that lane. They're gonna go there. They're gonna go to the church. I'm sorry to say, Pastor, but they're gonna go to the church. Okay? This is where they're gonna go. So that addresses the crime. I'm gonna go back to the zoning. Why? Answer me this. Before you make a decision, answer it for yourself. Why does this zoning have to skip the multi-family 1 to the multi-family 2? Why go from 176 allowable units on a 22-acre plot to 441 potential lots? That's my question. And I ask that you ask that of yourselves before you decide to approve this. Thank you.
All right, any further questions? Any further questions for Ms. Shippey? All right, you're good. All right, so looking at the clock, we got through, what would you say, Mr. Angelo, about 40 public comments over the course of about 2 hours? We could have gone a bit quicker, but like I said, everyone's gonna get their chance to speak. Everyone got their chance to speak. Do we have, let's see, Ms. Chadwick, as the agent for proponent, would you like an opportunity to make any final comments in response to what was said?
Do you have any questions of me that I can clarify something?
Board members, do we have anything requiring clarification from the agent for proponent?
Now, I have a question, I guess it would really be to Ms. Chadwick and to Mr. Angelo. And I'm just making sure I understood it because it's been a couple of hours since you said it. So am I correct in understanding that the original application, this is the question that she was asking, the original application was for the RMF1, and that we informed you that it needed to be RMF2?
No, we originally submitted the application for rezoning only to RMF2.
Just a Z, not a CPA and a Z.
We did not plan on asking to change the comprehensive plan. When it was submitted to North Florida Council, Mr. Angelo informed me that we were required to change or to submit that application also. We in no way ever intended on doing that from the beginning, but because of the regulations with the zoning and land use, they have to match, and so we had to apply for that.
Yes, please.
So on the North Florida Planning Council, whenever we submitted the zoning over to them for review, because any rezoning that we do always goes to the North Florida Planning Council, which is run by the state of Florida. And so that goes to them, they review it, they look at a lot of things that, we may not look at as a small municipality. And so we utilize them to oversee that. So when they looked at it, they look at our land development regulations. One of the stipulations for RMF2 is that you have to have 2,178 square feet per dwelling unit. When you divide that into 44,000 square feet, which is in an acre of land, you have to have 20 dwelling units per acre to be able to support the RMF2. And that is the reason that North Florida Planning Council requested the comprehensive plan amendment to go from residential moderate to residential high. And that is a requirement from the REM development regulations because it requires 2,100 square feet per acre.
You said they recommended that.
I'm sorry,
You weren't asked to approach.
They didn't,
that's not what was discussed today. I'm sorry.
they didn't recommend it. That's one of the requirements. In order to be able to rezone that to RMF2, they had to also submit a comprehensive plan amendment to be able to do that. And so they had to have both the plans to be able to do that.
Which is why we're looking at a CPA petition as well as a Z petition simultaneously.
Correct.
But you held up a book and said, you go by your rules, you don't go by Florida rules.
Exactly.
That would be for the zoning side of it, but as far as North Florida Regional Planning Council, they are referenced as one of our partners who reviews all of these before they come to us to make sure they are in compliance.
When I spoke to Robert today, he didn't know why they skipped that middle zone. He said you said that middle zone would be appropriate, and he did not know why they skipped it.
It could be, but you're allowed to skip zoning classes.
But that's why we're asking you not to.
Private property owner has the ability to request and apply for what they wish. You're asking us to toss an application just because it doesn't suit your desires.
He didn't ask for it, if that's what we're saying here, is that he didn't ask for it.
So the state told them to do it.
That's right.
To be clear, the North Florida Planning Council is not the state of Florida. It's a different thing.
Correct. They're not the state of Florida, but they are governed by the state of Florida. They are a regional planning council that oversees about 13 counties along with 26 municipalities. So a lot of the local governing bodies around us go through them for zoning and comprehensive plan amendments.
So you have no ability to say no to them, we're gonna do it this way.
Whoa. We're not recognizing additional comments. Everyone has had their opportunity to make comment. We're wrapping this up, otherwise every single other person is gonna try to come up to the podium now. We've been doing this for over 2.5 hours now.
Now the truth is coming out, the truth is just coming out.
Could last the rest of your life.
Are there any other questions or comments for agent of proponent? Okay. At this time, unless there are any objections by members of the board or by our Director of Growth Management or the administrator sitting on this board from the department, are there any objections if we close the public comment phase of these two petitions so that the board can deliberate?
No.
Seeing none, the public comment phase has been closed. Discussion amongst members of the board and city departments.
I'd like to say a few things. So,
Mr. Cooper, floor is yours.
thank you. So we have a commitment to the citizenship of this city, is that correct? And we have a commitment to the appropriateness of the things that we allow and don't allow. They may be allowed by the city, but there's an appropriate amount of things that we deny because it's just not appropriate. So based on several things, I'm not saying whether I'm gonna ask to deny this or table it yet. I haven't made up my mind, but me being a homeowner, I think it wasn't great timing that they did the signage and asked for the 10-day application to be done during the holidays. I know that a lot of people were gone. And, you know, you got hundreds of people here that are concerned, probably more than that, because, you know, they really didn't have time to, you know, to check this out and to come up here. So I think that if anything, there should be more time allowed for these homeowners that are concerned to be able to voice their opinions, because I'm sure a lot of them aren't here. And I kind of think it's premature to make a decision. I like the last gentleman's comments that about giving up our right to change the zoning, because once it's changed to something like this, it's changed forever. And you have thousands of taxpayers that are concerned. And I think their voices have to be heard. I'm a homeowner, and if they put this in right by my house, I'd be concerned. I'd want to know more. I'd want to see more, you know. And also the comment from the city that the county was concerned with some things. You know, that's a concern for me, because that's pretty huge. So, you know, there's a lot of things that I would say are wrong with this, in my opinion. So I think it's got some problems in how I see it moving forward currently. So that's how I feel. That's what I see about it.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Does anyone else have any discussion amongst the board or statements they would like to make?
I would just like to ask.
Mary, you got the floor.
I would just like to ask, what's the difference between this situation and the situation we dealt with earlier during the year when the homeowners came in, when they were building an apartment complex right in that area? What's the difference?
I believe that one required a CPA. I think that was exclusively a zoning change. It was a much smaller parcel and therefore did not require an amendment to the comprehensive planning atlas.
Okay.
It did require a rezone.
Right.
But it only appeared in front of this board as a Z petition, not a Z petition attached to a CPA petition. Any other discussion amongst members of the board? Microphone.
I share some of Mr. Cooper's concern about the permanentness of this zoning change. I'd like to
my thoughts are that, you know, based on what we've heard from the public, obviously there is a great deal of interest and outcry over this. There are a lot of issues that will be concluded only through additional analysis and research as part of the SPR process. I don't think that just the specter of what might show up on an SPR level analysis should automatically negate a private property owner's right to apply for a rezoning classification if that triggers a CPA petition in addition to a rezoning. I mean, that's at the level of planning council. You know, based on my experience and time on this board, you know, these are the hardest decisions that we are called to make. I mean, what you guys in the audience don't understand is we never see this many people in here. Day in and day out, it's us and 3 people just, you know, gaveling in, conducting 5 petitions in the matter of 30 minutes and then gabbling out without one single interested member of the public showing up to speak for or against anything.
But it shows you something.
So this definitely is heartwarming, seeing that, you know, even though there were complaints about the size of the signage, and even though there were complaints about, oh, it was only up 12 days, clearly the notifications worked, whether through the newspaper or through physical signage or by word of mouth or by people picking up the phone and calling concerned neighbors. Word got out about this. But ultimately, we have our buoys we abide by. There is, you know, as Mr. Cooper says, there's the, you know, sound and rational side of, you know, does it fit? Does it look right? Does it, you know, feel right? And then on the other side of that channel, you have, is it in conformance with the LDRs? And in between those two is the channel that we're obligated legally to ride between. One thing that does give me a bit of heartburn down the road, and Mr. Angelo, you may be able to answer this. Obviously, I didn't realize this many people were going to be showing up. I didn't realize how contentious this would be. Out on that side of city limits, what is the characteristic of the patchworking of the city annexed versus non-city annexed parcels? Is that pretty much a contiguously annexed portion of city limits, or will we run into issues whereby if the county planning and zoning board is doing something with one of these other parcels and we're doing something with this one, we could end up having double the amount of development without even knowing it's going on?
Well, currently, the property across from Baskin Norris is kind of like a dividing line between the county and the city. Anything south of Baskin Norris is typically county, and that some of it is city, but it's just kind of spotty on that side. But you know, majority of that is county.
And then, Mr. Brown, as you're still acting director of growth management. You had indicated that you had gotten some adverse communications from the county saying that they had some reservations based on the fact that this was at the edge of city limits, what it would do as far as the fact that just right across the street, it may be a whole different planning and zoning board that decides how the next one gets done.
That is correct.
How firm was the concern from the county on that, and do you think it's something that merits having an additional round of meetings with the county to figure out what's going on prior to even taking up the CPA or Z petition?
If I may, Chair.
By all means.
Based on the conversations that have followed the actual email that came out, again, I'll go back to my original statement that the county has some serious concerns. And the city staff has been voicing these concerns as early as June of this year with other developments. As your acting director, I would highly recommend that this motion be tabled until we have a chance to get more information from the county. I'm not for the development or against development right now. I'm speaking as an employee of the city.
And a department head.
And a department head, but I do know, as I mentioned when I stood up here first, as an advisor to this panel, I believe there's information that's going to be pertinent to the decision that's made tonight. Knowing that we give public comment, I think is the fair way to do it. We have the concerns of the citizens, but as a department head, I have concerns at how this is gonna move through the county and the city process as well. So a decision would be premature in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
And from a growth management standpoint, even if we were to approve this evening, there would still be 2 more visits the proponent and Ms. Chadwick would have to make in front of this board, so it's not as if a short-term delay is preventing them from, you know, breaking ground tomorrow.
Yeah, that would be a correct statement. I think the information that the county is going to provide is going to be pertinent.
And what's our time frame on when we can coordinate with the county? Is this a minimal amount of a potential slowdown for the proponent, or is this something that would be more drawn out and adverse?
No, well, so for the discussion purposes, that's something that's gonna happen relatively quick. I have reached out to the city manager already to express concerns over this, and a couple of other projects that may end up being contiguous with it. Based on that road and the annexation that's coming up, because we do have to get the attorneys involved in the annexation. So there's a couple of moving parts to this. I would have to say that it's gonna move relatively quick as far as getting an answer from the county.
So this is not an undue burden we're placing on the proponent as far as just holding on until we can talk to the county?
I would probably say it would be the correct thing to do for the entire project, because with that road being maintained by the county, they're going to have some pretty strong feelings about it from the email that I read from the county manager, Mr. Kraus.
Okay. Any additional questions for the acting director of growth management?
Yeah, Mr. Brown, the airport, is it in the city or the county?
It's county.
County.
Yes, sir, that would go back to that Vasco North kind of being the dividing line there.
Yeah.
Which again is why I would recommend that we get the county's input before we make this decision, because I think that from the email that I received, again, short notice, prior to this meeting, that Mr. Kraus had some concerns that he relayed to us, at which time we took straight to the city manager to try and discuss it on his level, but we have not had a chance to get to the bottom of all of their concerns.
Any additional questions for our department head? Very nice. The third time you can be seated, Steve. All right. So at this time, having heard all of the public comment, having heard from the agent for proponent, the proponent himself, the acting department head for growth management, as well as the concerns of our own administrator, Mr. Angelo. At this time, do we have a motion to either approve, disapprove, or table the combined petitions CPA 2209 and Z 22-07 as presented?
May I ask a question? Table versus denial, what kind of burden would that put on and their application? When could they reapply?
Can't hear you.
Microphone.
So a table versus a denial, like what type of burden would that put on the applicant?
Denial would put them back at ground zero, but then again, a denial would also potentially give the proponent the opportunity to appeal directly to the city council, where the city council could overturn our denial in general chamber or general session.
And so how long could we table it for the entirety of the, like you said?
As I understand, it sounds like these conversations are about to happen yesterday, so I would say if you're making a motion to table, I would say one meeting.
I am, I'm making a motion.
And we can revisit, and if it still requires in-depth communications with the county at that time, we can table for another month as we go along.
Okay.
But it sounds like there are some systemic issues between city department heads and their county counterparts that need to be addressed before this should rightly move forward.
All right, well, I move in motion to table CPA 22-09 and 722-07.
Second. For a period of 1 month?
For a period as sufficient for them to get.
Mr. Brown, 1 month?
I would like to at least do a minimum of 1 month until we have a county representative, is what I'm gonna try and get the county representative to be at the meeting. I don't know what their schedule looks like. It will take more than that, but a minimum of a month.
Well, let's do 2.
Okay.
You said a minimum of 1, let's do 2.
Okay.
That'll give them plenty of time.
Tabling for 2 months until we can have a county representative address some of the systemic issues we're seeing here.
I believe that's great.
A second. We have a motion and a second by Mr. Carter. All right, Mr. Angelo, it's been a long time waiting, but please toll the yeas and the nays.
Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Cooper, Mr. Carter,
Yes.
and Mr. Lighty.
Yay. CPA 22-09 and Z 22-07 have been tabled for 2 months pending conversations with our county counterparts. I would like to thank all of you for coming and sitting through that. That is an exercise in civic role and responsibility. Hopefully all of you are leaving with a relatively decent taste in your mouth. You are permitted to leave. You do not have to stay for all the rest of our business unless you're just really jazzed about planning and zoning. At this time, as we're allowing the room to clear, I'd like to call a 10-minute recess for anyone that needs to use the restroom, grab a drink. 5-minute break. If you have conversations in this room, please take them to the corridors outside so that we can resume our business as soon as possible. Take my first I like these. Let's get ready to move. Let's
Oh, great, okay. Hopefully we can.
That's all I can say. I'm ready to get out of here.
I'm supposed to be, you know, I'm not so worried about what else we got, you know, but after this one.
I mean, that's the nature of the beast.
So the people have to go somewhere. It just needs to be coordinated and planned.
That's all right.
What I say,
How'd you get stuck with this meeting?
It was my turn. If I'd have known it was gonna be this long, I'd have done all the ones last month.
Well, you have yourself a wonderful evening.
Okay, thanks, there's somebody here, Christopher.
All right, so we've got 2 board members in the little committee room. Before we get started again, just to see a show of hands so I know who's playing at home, who do we have here for CPA 22-08 and Z 22-08? I'm so sorry, Carol.
I don't get paid nearly enough.
Hey, you've been to these things where we've gotten people out of here in 25 minutes.
Right.
Eventually, we knew this was gonna happen one day.
Yeah, it's a trade-off every once in a while.
Yeah.
Okay, still waiting on rep. And then show of hands, who's here for HPA? Historic Preservation Authority? Okay, 1, 2 over there, that's 2 petitions. And then someone got called in for SPR 23-03 for Tory Humphreys. Okay, so we'll get to you right after we get to 22-08 and 22-08. Just waiting on Mr. Nelson.
He was right behind me in the restroom.
This is usually what it's like.
Pardon me?
This crowd is usually what these are like.
This would be heavy for a normal night.
I mean, that's true.
We're not broadcasting right now, are we?
I didn't know if I was supposed to stop it.
Cool, whatever. I don't mind being candid.
Holding up progress, come on.
Usually the council meetings when they're on break, he still runs them, so I didn't know.
Whatever, your pleasure.
I don't want too much sunshine.
All right. Let's go ahead and conclude planning and zoning. We've got 3 more petitions we'll be going through. First is a joint series of petitions, CPA 22-08 and Z 22-08. Petitions submitted by Carol Chadwick, acting as agent for Charles Stringham, owner, to amend future land use and official zoning atlas of the land development regulations by changing future land use from residential low to commercial and changing the zoning district from residential single-family 2 to commercial intensive on property described as Columbia County parcel number 05846-000. Mr. Angelo, please approach and give us a rundown of this petition.
All right, this is for petition CPA 2208- and Z 22-08. It is for rezoning, going from a commercial, or from a residential single-family designation to a commercial intensive, which will also require the future land use be changed from residential low to commercial. The intent of this is to add a mini warehouse, which is already there. This is just a lot that is in front of that property, so it is contiguous. The commercial intensive lot that they're proposing is contiguous to another commercial intensive lot where there's already many warehouses there.
And I've got a question for you, Mr. Angelo, before we bring up Ms. Carroll. Noticing the size and configuration of this lot and the fact that it juts into a very, very large cemetery, are we 100% sure that that line is where some of those old historic burials actually end?
That I'm not aware of, and that's where a surveyor with the engineer would have to come in.
All right, we'll talk to Ms. Carroll about that. You can have a seat. Well, I'm just saying, back in the day when they first started platting out that cemetery, that line may not have been as straight as an arrow.
Well, something to keep in mind.
Call 811.
Look, I don't know that they locate that, but we'll find out. Yes, the owners of Lake City Self-Storage that we just did phase 2 not long ago would like to implement phase 3, which would be a climate-controlled facility. So it will have, it will be a sizable building, but minimal exterior impervious surface. So we are working on, it will require a new drainage stormwater management plan just for this site. Everything on the other site is taken care of. Although there will be access from the existing site to this one, it will be considered separate. Anything else?
Anything for Ms. Carroll from members of the board? This seems relatively straightforward. All right, you may be seated. Do we have anyone else here in attendance that would like to speak either for or against CPA 22-08 or Z 22-08? Seeing none, public comment portion of this petition is closed. Discussion amongst board members and the city.
too late to stop the storage units there? Seems, as long as that line that you were concerned about has been,
Yeah, what happens with that? How do you?
Well, we've had some issues in the past where I work, where lines on maps were not in the same place they were 100 years ago.
Right.
And we've discovered things on what we thought was our side of the line that actually used to be on the other side.
Oh, boy. What happens if that happens?
If that were to happen, I believe we would have to contact the cemetery coroner.
Well, no,
I don't know who you would.
you'd contact the Florida Division of Historic Resources, the Bureau of
Okay.
Archaeological
And
Research.
they would have shut the project down until they could appropriately determine, I guess.
They'd
you know.
probably come out and do a ground penetrating radar survey for you and figure out where all those shafts are.
Have you ever?
Well, no, they would do it after you already hit some, and it would be very expensive, but ahead of time while you're doing your due diligence and before you break ground, contacting a geophysics company and having a remote sensing survey, or perhaps
I know someone that
GPR,
does that. I just recently have a client
that could
that's what he
save
does
you
for a
an
living.
enormous amount of money on the front end as opposed to having to exhume people on the back
Well,
end.
let me approach my client about that.
That's not a terrible idea.
I'm just saying, seeing how this property kind of curiously juts into a very old
I'll definitely.
cemetery,
Just have a discussion with my client to see if we can get that done.
it's,
You'll see the site plan, as you know.
oh yeah.
You'll have a chance to see the site plan.
We'll see the site plan.
Yes, so hopefully at that time we can report if we have been able to do that.
Yeah, that's probably prudent.
Any comments from city, or are we all good?
We're good, I mean,
Fantastic.
all that's addressed and I'm good.
I'd like to make a motion to approve CPA 22-08 and Z 22-08.
Second.
Motion to approve, who was our second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Mary down on the end. All right, Mr. Robert, call the yeas and the nays.
Ms. McCollum,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
and Mr. Lydic.
Yay. All right, decision was unanimous. CPA 22-08 and Z 22-08 are both approved. Hey,
Thank you, board members.
you're 1 for 2, and that second one
No,
only took us
I'm-
6 minutes.
I'm not two approved, one's tabled, which does not mean denied.
Okay, I'll give you that one. You have a great night, Carol.
All right, thank you, you
Thank
too.
you. All right, at this time, seeing no additional business before the planning, oh wait, no, we have one go back. Do we have a motion to remove from the table SPR 23-03?
Motion removed from the table, SPR 20, which one, I'm sorry, 2303, there you go.
Second.
Motion and second by Cooper. All in favor, hand vote? Aye. All opposed? All right. SPR 23-03 submitted by Tori Humphreys, agent for Daniel Craps owner. Site plan review for Bell Road Storage and Maintenance Facility in a industrial zoning district located on parcel 049030002, regulated by Land Development Regulations, section 4.17. Who do we have to speak on behalf of this? Come on down. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, to the best of your knowledge and ability?
I do.
Very nice. Name and spelling, along with legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Dalton, Dalton, Kurtz, Kurtz, 21313, 180th Street, Live Oak, Florida. I would first like to apologize and thank the board for accommodating us. Ms. Humphreys is unfortunately under the weather right now, and immediately after the holidays, it just kind of came up and surprised us. Again, thank you for accommodating us. But
We had plenty of time tonight, don't you worry.
But yes, it's basically a site plan over off of Bell Road, light industrial. It's going to be used by the Black and Veatch Corporation for construction equipment, storage, maintenance, and construction material unloading, storage, and shipping. For the most part, it's just going to be a laydown yard with a covered structure on it and an area for them to maneuver equipment on.
Any you said the proponent was Beach and
The final end user will be Black and Veatch Corporation.
Black and Beach, and are they already local or are they coming in from outside?
I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. Black and Veatch, VEATCH is going to be the company. He's going to be the end user. I believe Mr. Kraft is building the site, and he will then, I don't know if he's renting it to him, selling it to him, or what, but he's the one getting it permitted and building it.
Let's see. Gonna go through the plans here. All right. Anything else we should know about this?
It's pretty straightforward. Everything that's in the plans. On-site stormwater, Swanee River Water Management permit.
That is a heck of a pond there.
Yeah. I was going to throw this out for some of the prior discussion, but Swanee River Water Management is what nightmares are made out of. Permitting through them, it is incredibly difficult. So if you can permit through them, you can permit through anybody. But that's the gist of what that is. You know, big old pond. It's just not the greatest soil out there, so you have to compensate with a really big pond. So, you guys have any other questions for me on it?
For what it's worth, Black and Beach is an engineering firm based out of Kansas City.
Oh, nice. Bring folks in from outside. Welcome to Lake City.
Thank you, Google.
All right, is there anyone else here to speak either for or against SPR 23-03 as presented? Seeing none, public comment phase of this petition is closed. Discussion amongst members of the board. We got anything on this?
I don't, does the city fill it out?
No heartburn from the city?
No, sir. The only director that had anything was the sewer director. He wanted to, a little bit of reassurance that, there would be nothing industrial dumped into it, which this being just a storage facility for equipment, wouldn't indicate that.
All right. At this time, do we have a motion to approve or deny SPR 23-03 as submitted?
Motion to approve SPR 23-03 as submitted.
Second.
Motion and second by Carter. All right, Mr. Angelo, please call the yeas and the nays.
Ms. McCullum?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yay.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And Mr. Lyden?
Yay. All right, SPR 23-03 has been unanimously approved. Congratulations. Sorry you had to come in to cover your coworker's shift.
Good experience.
All right, seeing no additional business before the Planning and Zoning Board, City of Lake City, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, second. All in favor, hand vote? Aye. All opposed? All right, I now call to order the Historic Preservation Agency, City of Lake City, January 4, 2023. Says this meeting should have started at 5:45. I thank all of you so much for bearing with us through all of this. I know how difficult that must have been, watching the gears of bureaucracy move their way through the mud.
But what a learning experience,
For real.
All right, so moving to there, we have our meeting minutes of the meeting 12/6/2022. Those were sent out digitally prior to the holiday break. I trust everyone has had the opportunity to look over our minutes. At this time, are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes?
No.
Hearing none, do we have a motion for their adoption?
Motion to adopt the minutes 12/06/2022.
Second.
Motion to adopt and a second by Mr. Nelson. All in favor of adopting the minutes, hand vote? Aye. Opposed? Very nice. There being no old business, moving to new business, petition COA 23-02 presented by Michelle Ward as owner, applying for a certificate of appropriateness for parcel 127590000 located in the view shed of the Lake Isabella National Historic District as provisioned in Land Development Regulations, Article 10. Is Ms. Ward here with us this evening? Please approach. Give me just a moment to pull this one up, 23-02. This is Tucker Street.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, very good. We've got it brought up now. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, to the best of your knowledge and ability?
I do.
Very nice. Name and spelling and legal address of record for Mr. Angelo.
Michelle Ward, Michele, Ward, W-A-R-D, 331 Northwest Mission Ridge Court, Lake City, Florida, 32055.
All right, and would you please explain for the benefit of the board what you're trying to accomplish this evening?
Okay, I'm gonna do my best. So the address of the property, 183 Southwest Tucker Street, we purchased a little over a year ago, and we were looking to utilize the property for additional parking for where our center is located. Our main office is in the same block. In the city block where this particular parcel is, we own 3 of the 5 lots in the city block, and this is one of them. It's small, but we were just looking to have some additional parking. Parking is tight around our main office there. And to tell you a little bit about our agency, Suwannee Valley 4Cs is the sole grantee for Head Start and Early Head Start in our 4-county area, including Columbia, Hamilton, Suwannee, and Lafayette counties. We serve 415 children, birth to 5-year-olds, and we've been in operation, the agency, since 1985, for Head Start since 1996. So we've been in operation for quite some time, and so we've grown over the years, and so additional parking would be beneficial. Currently, there is an old house on the property that is about, how many square feet would you say?
The house is probably about 1,000.
About 1,000 square feet, and it was built in 1925. It has not really been lived in for quite some time. We know that over the last number of years, several years anyway, there's actually been homeless people staying in this house, and we ended up having to board up the house so that they couldn't get inside. And so anyway, because we didn't want that as a liability, but the house, I guess individuals that have been there over the years have really just torn apart the house. I mean, it's gutted. We were looking to get permission to tear down the house so that we could then utilize that area as parking. And initially, we would just be looking at hoping that just a grass, parking lot would suffice. But if it didn't work out, for the surfacing, we would have to seek additional permits for that. But we really, since it's in a historical district, we understood that we would have to get permission to, and approval to tear the house down.
All right, and I see you did a very good job as far as providing photographic evidence. I believe there's got to be at least 30 photographs in here of the current condition of the structure. That's obviously something that plays very strongly into Article 10 here, where it specifically references demolition of historic properties. I think you very clearly, as someone who works in the historic preservation field, I do believe you've done a pretty good job demonstrating that there is no feasible alternative economic use for this structure other than demolition, based on the condition not only of the exterior, which in and of itself does not appear to have much remaining in terms of its historic integrity, and then of course the inside shots really set it off. Now, for this certificate of appropriateness, this would of course be strictly for the demolition of the existing structure. Now, there would be a follow-up visit should a just a grass rear lot for your parking purposes. So I did not see much in the way of a design other than what you have on page 6 here, just showing the parcel being, lotted out into spots. A separate certificate of appropriateness would be needed if you were to develop that lot into a more formal parking area, whereby we would have to take, or well, hopefully you would take into account ahead of time the historic correctness of lamp fixtures, trash receptacles, benches if there were going to be any, your landscaping plans, possibly reincorporating some of the historic material from the structures, such as the bricks from the masonry or the piers, etc., into some of those aspects. But as someone who does historic preservation and as someone who does not like to see these old birds get torn down, I do believe you've done a bang-up job on your due diligence, showing that there is no feasible alternative other than demolition on this. But that being said, this COA would exclusively be for demo. It would not be for whatever you were planning to put up in its stead, other than just a grass parking area.
So we would be okay to do grass parking,
Yeah.
but if we needed.
But if you're gonna develop anything, because you are within the limits or the view shed of the National Historic District, that developed parking area with its constructed features would have to go through additional board review by the Historic Preservation Agency. So that being said, is there any other questions for the proponent from members of the board? Seeing none, go ahead.
Will the minutes reflect that the grass parking lot is okay?
Well, yeah, because that would just be removing the structure and returning it to bare earth. So
Okay.
you can obviously use bare earth or grass, but if you're bringing in pavement, if you're bringing in pavers, if you're bringing in, any sort of constructed infrastructure for that parking area, that will require follow-up review.
If this is approved for demolition, just to let you know, whenever you go to start that process, there is a demolition permit that you would have to file with the city, which would coordinate the utilities, making sure everything's disconnected, all that stuff.
Yeah, you and I have already talked about it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was clear. I know that we talked about it, so I think we're all good on that.
I'd like to make a motion to approve COA 23-2.
Second.
Motion to approve, was that you, Ms. McCollum?
Yes.
Ms. McCollum on the second. Call the vote, call the roll.
Ms. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And Mr. Lyden?
Yay. All right, petition COA 23-02 has been approved. Next item on our agenda, petition COA 23-03, presented by David Reich as owner and/or Chad Stewart, Joni Stewart, or Lacey Graham as agent. All right, who's coming down for this one? Sure. It's late enough at night, let's just get through this. All right.
Congratulations.
We'll oath you both. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge and ability. Very nice. Names and legal addresses of record for Mr. Angelo.
Joni Stewart, J-O-N-I, S-T-E-W-A-R-T.
Chad Stewart, C-H-A-D, S-T-E-W-A-R-T. It's 541 Southwest Rosemary Drive, Lake City.
Okay, that's this one. All right, what would you like to accomplish this evening?
The property is under contract, so the buyer and the seller would like approval to remove, there's a old carport metal tin roof and tin side on the side of the property. It's got some open nails and some truss systems that have fallen down, so the buyer is a medical transport company. They're planning to use the property for a business office, and they just want to remove the shed, use it as a grass, maybe some asphalt millings type of parking lot. It would just generally remove the shed for insurance liability reasons. You can't really see the shed from Bea unless you are specifically looking, it's at the back of the property. And no changes to the rest of the primary structure.
I'll come push this thing down for you for free.
Yes.
Yeah, but then you gotta haul it off.
You might could sneeze on it.
I don't think there's any utilities or anything, it was just an old carport. The property appraiser shows it as 2017, but I don't know, it's probably mid-90s range.
Or older.
Hard to say.
All right, and then you said that there is no anticipated parking infrastructure going in on this spot. This is exclusively for a COA for demolition of an ancillary structure within the historic district or its use shed?
That's right, yeah.
All right. So same admonishment that I gave the last folks. If at some point the medical transport company, and I guess you're working as the realty agents for these individuals,
Correct.
please convey to them that at some point in the future, if they decide they want to do something with where this structure used to be and develop infrastructure there, whether it be pavement, lighting, benches, trash cans, curbs, what have you, that will require a separate COA. The COA will be for the demolition of the structure on this parcel, and that alone.
Is there a demolition permit required if there's no utilities, it's just a shed, or how does that work?
I'll contact you tomorrow. I'll double check with our permit tech and Jones just to make sure. I believe it would be just to keep everything consistent. And it, but I'll follow up with her just to clarify, and then I'll call you in the morning and let you know.
Okay, sounds good.
Any additional questions for the proponents from the board? Anyone else here to speak for or against the petition as presented? All right, do I hear a motion?
Motion to adopt COA 23-03.
Second.
Motion and a second. Oh, we all want to get out of here now.
I spoke up.
All right, we got a motion and a second. For the final time this evening, Mr. Angelo, will you please call the yeas and the nays?
Ms. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yay.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And Mr. Light?
Yay.
And y'all did a great job managing the prior meeting.
Tell your friends.
Appreciate that a lot.
All right, at this time, we have two items on the consent agenda, COA 22-29 and COA 23-01. At this time, Mr. Angelo, would you like to describe the actions that the Department of Growth Management took on these consent agenda items?
Yes, so the first one is COA 22-29. This is at 254 Southeast Brown Street. And that the proposed use of the side of the house was to install solar panels on the non-primary side of the house. And that, which is consistent with the minor development being it's on the side of the house.
All right, and COA 23-01?
So 23-01 is at 182 North East Justice Street. This is the First Baptist Church of Lake City, right there next to the courthouse. They're proposing to replace the existing shingles with new shingles of the same color. Looks like they're probably about a shade or so different, but over 30 years, they've probably changed color a little bit, yeah.
All right, are there any questions or discussion for Mr. Angelo from members of the board?
No.
All right, hearing none, Mr. Angelo, you can go take your position. Do we have a motion to ratify the consent agenda as proposed by the Department of Growth Management?
Motion to ratify COA 22-29 and COA 23-01.
Okay, motion on Carter, second on Cooper. All in favor, hand sign? Aye. All opposed? Very nice. Those COAs are ratified on the consent agenda. Seeing no workshop items and no other business in front of this board, do we have a motion to adjourn HPA for the evening?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion to adjourn and a second on Mr. Carter. All in favor, hand sign? Aye. Aye. All opposed? You can sit